Tyler is all set, so we will begin this meeting. Good evening, everyone. It is officially 7:07, and I'd like to open this meeting. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. Today is Thursday, December 10th, 2020. We are meeting via Google Meet. This meeting is being held via Google Meet in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live. In addition, we do have for future meetings, individuals, if they would like to. I'm sorry, is everyone on mute? Alan, would you mind just muting yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm looking.
In the white bar at the bottom where the three dots were.
Used to be in my picture. Light change full screen. Not there.
Hit Control D.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We do have an email link if folks are interested in sending an email if they'd like to participate and speak during citizens comments. That email is listed, but it is also citizenscomments@pvrsdk12.org. So first and foremost, welcome everyone. We do have a lengthy agenda this evening. Just a few housekeeping items I'd like to request is if everyone can remain on mute. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. I'll do my best at seeing everyone. I think once we get through citizens comments, I'll be able to move along and see everybody's faces as well. Also, everyone does have a raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. So if you are not using your video, you can also use that feature and raise your hand and it will pop up on my computer screen. So Jim, I see your hand.
Yep. So I'd just like to say a few things before we start the meeting. Good evening, everybody. Before we move on, I just want to name the elephant in the room. And for me, it appears that the Gill-Montague regionalization folks have packed the school committee. So that's something that the community, if they're interested, they should be alert. If the people in the Pioneer School District, if you have kids going to Pioneer or are going to go to Pioneer, if you're okay with them going to Turners Falls High School in a few years, then fine. If not, please pay attention. The other thing I wanted to mention was the election process. And there are a lot of people on the school committee who didn't go through the normal process. Was I a fool going out and getting my 35 signatures and getting on the ballot? Because when we looked at the ballot, the only people on the ballot were Michelle and myself. So much for democracy and the people's vote. So anyway, I wanted to mention that. The apathy of the community, nobody got on the ballot. Okay, and finally, last meeting was almost 4 freaking hours. And I felt like I was a hostage to some people's verbosity. And so I'm really asking some people in the group to please talk less. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we will move on to citizens' comments. We do have several students that are here with us this evening. And I just want to check, is Ryan Potter present with us this evening?
Yes, I am.
Okay, hi Ryan, welcome.
Thank you.
Kristen, this is Ann. Could
Yes,
you
ma'am.
identify any new members since the the last meeting? Because it sounds like there were unresolved elections and I don't know who all the members are now.
Yes, so we have the open vacancy within Leiden has been filled and Robin Knight is now a part of the school committee. So welcome to Robin.
Oh, hi. Thank you. Hi, Robert.
You're welcome. First, I'd like to begin by doing citizens' comments. I would like to remind everyone that we use a total of 20 minutes for citizens' comments, and it's 3 minutes per person. So I would kindly and respectfully ask that if you are speaking during citizens' comments, that you are aware of that time frame, please. I don't want to have to cut anybody off. So I'd like to bring Mike Churchill forward, please, and he can begin.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on the subject of winter sports. I believe it's critically important for the Pioneer students to have a winter sports season. During this pandemic, our students have been facing social isolation and limited interactions that are taking a toll on them. Compounding the situation is the fact that our students have a lack of options to safely cultivate their social interactions. Athletics serves as one of these outlets. This group of students has had so many experiences taken away from them. Social gatherings, dances, proms, and other school functions have been canceled, leaving small holes in these students' lives that can never be fully replaced. To that end, you all have the ability to make a decision that will keep one of these experiences from being taken away from them. There are also very valuable life lessons that can be learned through athletic competition that we cannot replicate elsewhere in life. Learning how to succeed with humility, to face defeat with grace, to encourage and pick each other up when facing obstacles, and how to pull together for a common cause. These lessons will help our student athletes become well-rounded young men and women as they head out into the workforce, and it is vitally important to their growth and well-being. I understand that there are safety concerns that exist for athletics, and I can't imagine how difficult this decision will be for all of you. However, there are a variety of precautions that are going to be used. Those are well understood and well distributed to all of the people involved. And I think we simply owe it to these student athletes to give them this chance. We always have the opportunity to pull back if we have to. But if we don't at least put our front foot forward and give them the opportunity to start and have an athletic season, these will be an experience like all the others that have been taken away from them. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. And so once you're finished speaking, if you could remove yourself from the meeting, that would be great. I don't want to have Tyler kick anybody out. So thank you again, Mike.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to call on Scott Thayer, please.
Unmute. I'm Scott Thayer. I am the boys basketball coach at Pioneer Valley Regional High School. This is a hard decision because you are being asked to say yes or no to something that none of us know. We don't know what the future metrics or data points of COVID-19 will be 30 days from when we have a January 11th proposed start date. The state guidelines and recommendations are constantly changing. But by giving a yes vote for approval, you're only giving the kids an opportunity to have a season. It does not mean all systems go. Let me stress, it only gives for an opportunity for a season. Athletic directors, district nurses, PVIC, MIA are not going to put kids in harm's way. And if in a month or so things have positively changed, I believe we can have judiciously a season with all the protocols and safety measures that have been implemented. But that only happens with approval. A no vote tonight kills any chance for student athletes will have of any sense of normalcy. They already have had so much during trying times. For them to have hope that this could happen would be an uplifting emotion for all involved. Please find it in your mind and in your heart to give a vote of approval tonight so that they believe they have this chance of hope and something positively happening for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next, I would like to call on Troy Emond. Troy, are you with us?
Yeah, I am. I wasn't
Okay,
really
great.
prepared to talk because I was told that only 2 people were, so.
Okay. Did you want to make a statement, or would you like to me to move on to the next person?
Can you just move on?
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll call on Liam Bradley Curtis next, please.
Hello. As some of you may know, I'm a senior at Pioneer this year, and I'm on the boys varsity basketball team. And for all the hard work that I've put in my entire life, from kindergarten to right now, I've been practicing all summer outside, and I've been putting all my time and effort into this season. And for there to possibly not even be an opportunity for me to play, which is my final chance at high school athletics, is really heartbreaking for me. And I know me and my teammates have worked really hard through this. We've gone through a ton of adversity, gone through tons of wins, tons of losses, and both on the court and off the court. And for us to not have that opportunity, like, really, really sucks, because we've worked our whole lives for it. I know that other states have been playing a lot of sports, and if I'm watching a video on Instagram or SportsCenter or something, it's really hard for me to see these other states playing, and I know that they're doing it much more irresponsibly than we would. But still, watching someone my age playing in a basketball game, it just seems really unfair, because why would they get that opportunity in a much more dangerous area like Florida or something, where the cases are a lot higher? They're not taking any safety precautions. But we have one of the lowest cases, like our county has one of the lower cases in the state. So then for us to put in those safety implications and have low cases, it hurts to go through all that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Liam. Next I have Sean Allen. Sean, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I
Would
didn't
you
know.
like to say something?
I didn't know I was supposed to be speaking.
Okay, all right then. And I also have Jalen McGraw. Jalen, would you like to?
No.
Okay, all right. I see a hand up that Kim Godfrey had raised her hand. Kim, did you want to speak?
Nope, sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay, all right. And then our student representative, Ryan, did you want to speak at this time, or do you have something that you want to discuss at a later time?
No, I'll speak now. Now that
Okay.
we're on the topic. So I'd like to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak, first off. So over the last several weeks, we've been having safe basketball practices 3 times a week in the school gym. Masks are worn at all times, and we strictly follow all of the safety guidelines and protocols that have been put in place by the state and the school. Now, with that being said, there have been no problems or issues whatsoever that come up throughout our time in the gym. As a team, we recognize that it's a privilege to be in the gym, and we want to make sure that we respect that privilege. And I have the utmost confidence that our team can continue to follow the rules to ensure a safe winter sports season. I'd also like to take a minute to talk about mental health. So all throughout the pandemic, you hear everyone always looking out for everybody's physical health, whether it's reminding everyone to wear a mask, to social distance, or wash their hands, which is definitely great, and that's what we should all continue to do. But it seems like sometimes physical health is prioritized over mental health. And if there's one thing that I've learned during these times, it's that mental health is just as important as physical health. And some people don't. Sports are more than just a game. They have a positive impact on the community and everyone's mental health. And I have full confidence that there's a way of having a sports season where safety is prioritized, but at the same time, us athletes can continue to do what we love to do. And we hope you can give us the opportunity to have a season. And all we want is a chance to play. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ryan. And you'll stay on with us for the rest of the meeting, correct? You're not going to remove yourself?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I'll be staying on. Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. All right. I believe that is all the individuals that I have on my list that I was provided. I see Scott, did you want to, you raised your hand on the computer. Did you want to say something else?
Yeah, just real quick, I just want to reiterate again that from all the talks that I've had from, I know so many, I've been coaching for 30 plus years with athletic directors and MIA officials, and I just want to make sure that everybody, just an approval vote does not mean we are full steam ahead and the season is happening. It just gives the kids an opportunity. Because again, 30 days from now, we don't know what's going to happen. But like I said, a no vote kills us in the water. And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that just because we say, yes, we're going to have winter sports, it does not mean that we're going to have a full-fledged season and all that stuff. It just means we have an opportunity to move forward. And I just want to reiterate that so that people understand that because you vote yes doesn't mean we're going to go full forward. We still have so many things so many hurdles to go over yet. So I just wanted to reiterate that again so that I hope everybody understands that it doesn't mean we're having to see. It just gives us an opportunity. That's all it does. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So that will conclude our citizens' comments for this evening. If those citizens that spoke could just remove themselves from the meeting, please, that would be great. That way I don't have to remove someone or have Tyler remove someone. Let's see. Scott, do you want to remove yourself? Okay, perfect. All right, moving along, we have various sets of minutes that we have been provided. So we'll begin with the minutes from the July 16th, 2020 meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes? Hi, Karen.
Hi. There is a problem in that Sharon Fontaine was listed as absent on the front, and on the second page, she made the motion to adjourn. Does anybody remember if she was there?
We could most certainly check in with her to get that confirmation.
I can check the movie too.
Okay, thank you, Anne.
Available. I'm not sure if that one was videoed or not, but I'll do my best on that.
All right. And if you can't figure it out, can you just let me know and I could find out for you? Are there any corrections that need to be made on the July 16, 2020 minutes?
Only in the new business, do we have something called PVRMS? Middle school? Or is it PVRS? 7th grade slots.
And did you use an abbreviation to mean Pioneer Valley Regional Middle School?
Probably everybody refers to it as a middle school, so I do too.
Okay. All right. Does that clarify it for everyone?
Yep.
Okay.
And real quick, sorry, I don't have my thing on. I think Sharon was at the 16th meeting in July based on date documentation I have from when she departed the committee.
Okay, thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome.
If there are no other corrections, we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes for July.
I move that we approve the minutes from July 16th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? I'll just go down the list. Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Raina?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jeannie?
Yes.
Julie?
I feel like I should abstain because I wasn't part of the group then.
Okay, thank you. Alan? I can't. Alan, if you want to use thumbs up if you vote yes, thumbs down if you vote no. Okay, thank you. Michelle,
I'll abstain.
Robin,
I'll abstain.
okay. Nathan, have you joined us? Not yet. Okay, thank you. All right, moving
Hey,
along to,
I can't see Alan, so could you just clarify, was he yes, no, or abstain?
he was yes, thumbs up.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I'll do a better job next time announcing that for you. So next up, we have August 4th of 2020. Any corrections needed for those minutes? None? Okay. If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
There a second?
Second. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Karen? Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jeannie?
Yes.
Julie?
Abstain.
Alan? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay.
What was your vote?
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Michelle?
Yes.
Robin?
Abstain.
Thank you. And I abstained for those, for that meeting as well. I was absent. August 13th, 2020. Any corrections? Go ahead, Karen.
All right, halfway down the first page, it should be COVID, not Covis.
Okay. Any other corrections?
Yeah, under number 1, still the first page, 4th paragraph, 3rd line, near the end, the D off removed.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. There are no other corrections. We'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Any discussion? Okay. Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Raina?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. David?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jeannie?
Yes.
Julie? Abstain?
Abstain.
Alan?
Abstain.
Michelle?
Yes.
Robin?
Abstain.
I abstain as well because I was absent at that meeting. 9:22, I still don't have entire accurate meeting minutes, so we'll proceed on to 11 and hopefully we can get that squared away for next month's meeting. So 11, November 12th of 2020, which was our most recent meeting. Any corrections to be noted on those minutes? I see Karen nodding her head no. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to accept.
Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike Townsley.
Any discussion? All right, we'll go down the list. Karen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Raina,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Thank you. Jim,
Yes.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes. No. Yes.
yes? Okay. Michelle,
Yes.
Robin,
Abstain.
and Kristen, I say yes. My vote is yes as well. All right, those minutes are complete and that motion passes. All right, we'll move along to appearances for superintendent's report.
Okay, I know we have a long agenda, so I'll keep my comments brief. I just first want to thank Ryan Potter for being our student rep. I've spoken to Ryan this past week and want to start including him in my superintendent report. So his voice, he has a chance to be heard every meeting. I think it's really important that we always keep in mind that we're here for the students. We want to put our students first. So thank you, Ryan, for being our representative. And I also want to say thank you to the students and the coaches who made the citizens comments. I'm in full support of the winter sports. I want to give our athletes and students every opportunity we can. Like Coach Thayer said, it may not happen, or it's definitely going to be a modified season with a lot of safety precautions in place that MIAA has set forth. But I think it's important for anyone like myself, a father for school-age children who's had school taken away from them, the in-person experience and sports taken away from them, or any extracurricular activity. These are the two things in life that they love most. And so any sense of normalcy that we can possibly give them and any opportunity we can give them to feel that and be around their peers and their coaches, I'm in support of. So we just keep that in mind. They're all hard decisions, but again, it's just giving them the opportunity to see how things progress and move over these next few weeks. And hopefully they would be able to have a modified season. If not, then at least we've given them the chance to, let that happen kind of on its own and based on the health metrics and other factors. So that being said, I know, we've also been talking and have very, very constructive conversations regarding another topic on our agenda, which is the protocol for closure. So we've been meeting with the union, and Carla Simpson did a presentation to all our union membership last week, and we're trying to bring more up to date, our health metrics, our protocol for school closure. So we've had some really good discussions with the union. I just want to remind everybody the amazing job that our teachers in our district did this fall to be in school as much as we've been in school. Compared to a lot of the districts around us, I think has been remarkable. So I take my hat off to all of our teachers and staff and our administration and central office staff for giving our students an opportunity to be in person. I'm hoping that we can get our students back in person as much as possible. And I think, hopefully maybe before the end of the year, before January 1st, we can come to some agreement and put something together that will work for everybody and move forward with just giving our students hopefully the opportunity to be back in a hybrid model come the new year. So I want to thank the union membership, our teachers and staff, and we're working hard to make sure we get all the information out to everybody, make sure we give everybody time to review that information, feel comfortable with it, so we can all move forward and do what's right for everybody. It's just been really hard. I've heard from a lot of students and families lately. It's been hard on everyone, including our staff. So I just want to commend our staff for hanging in there. And I think we'll be able to put something together that will hopefully get our students back in sooner than later. So that's all I really wanted to say for superintendent report, because I do know we have a lot on the agenda. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Next, we'll go to the Director of Finance report. Tanya.
Good evening, guys. I really don't have a huge report, just that we are moving forward still with our audit, and that's going well so far. We haven't had any real concerns or anything, just answering requests and providing information as that comes along. We're well into this fiscal year and things are going well. I just want to thank all the department heads and the staff for working with me as we work through the changes in our budget and our finances as we respond to the changing environment with COVID. So they've all worked really well with me on all of that. I'll keep it short and sweet. You guys were provided the accounts payable report. If anyone has any questions on that, I'm happy to answer that. No, I think everyone is pretty much good with that. Let me share my screen and I will present the financial reports really quickly. And if you guys have any questions on those, we can go over them before you guys vote on the transfers that I have in front of you guys. I'm going to zoom in on this too, because I know you guys have a hard time seeing when I present. So this is just the expenditure report by category. And I'm sorry, my computer's being a little slow. It doesn't want to scroll up for me. But anyways, this is where we're at by our 16 categories. You guys have the full detail in front of you. If anybody had any questions on that, I'm happy to answer. As I mentioned, we obviously are having some changing things going on a daily basis, almost weekly basis, sometimes with some staffing with all this COVID stuff. So I'm keeping a close eye on things again, like the instructional assistants, as we're still experiencing some changes in that, unfortunately. But other than that, we're still in a good place. I don't have any concerns over that, or our revenues, which is the other report that you guys have in front of you. We're on track with all of our revenues that are coming in. As most of you know, the state, I think, is meeting this week to hopefully, the committee met and the governor has the budget to vote on as a final budget. And for Pioneer, there's minimal changes in that from a revenue standpoint. And I don't foresee the committee having to revote a budget based on those numbers. So I think we're going to be okay with that. So no surprises coming from that. Does anyone have any questions on the revenue or expenditure report that you guys were provided before I move on to the transfers that I need a quick vote from you guys on?
I don't see any hands, Tanya.
Okay, awesome. So there's only, let me pull up the right one and I'll zoom in again, just because we do, these spreadsheets come across very small. So there's only 2 transfers that I need a vote on, and that is not the right one, so I apologize. The 2 transfers that I have up here are a transfer to the textbook line that the principal of the high school requested to purchase some French textbooks. The transfer is coming from our professional development line, and the reason for that is that he has discussed with his staff and confirmed that with me that due to everything going on right now, a lot of the conferences that the staff would be attending that we budgeted for and allowed for this year aren't happening, and a lot of the teachers are feeling like with the surround remote and in-person learning that the time to take advantage of the opportunities that are available is just not there. So we're transferring from the professional development to the textbook line there. And then the second line that I'm asking for a transfer for is $5,663. And this is a transfer. I picked our resource officer line just because that has not been fully implemented yet. And I analyzed where we have funds available. So that's why it's coming from there. And we know what we need to cover the Northfield officer that will be coming in for the rest of the year. So the funds are available there. And we did have additional mentors that were needed above and beyond what we budgeted because of all the staffing changes that happened. We had retirements happen that were not expected. We had other teachers that decided to resign with COVID happening. So we have some new teachers on board that needed to have mentors and be part of that onboarding process. So those are the 2 transfers. Do you guys have any other questions? I'm happy to answer that.
I see Jeannie's hand up, and then we'll go to Karen.
Tanya, what was the amount of in the transfer for the textbooks?
The textbooks was $4,377.25 from PD to textbooks. And I don't know if you guys remember back to budget season, but we decreased when we did our COVID budget. We decreased our textbook line in both the elementary and the high school by half in order to get that budget down. And then obviously reassessing the needs for this school year now that we're in it. That's why we've decided to move forward with the textbook purchase needed there at the high school. And I think Kevin can answer any further questions on that if need be.
Karen, go ahead.
Okay, I noticed that, excuse me, the amount that you're transferring for the mentoring is $350 more than the shortfall on the expenditure report. Can you explain that?
So the reason for the district mentoring being 350 more than the shortfall is because we have a teacher that's actually currently out on the FFCRA leave that is due a mentorship, but because she's not physically teaching at this point in time, we need to reserve the funds for that. So she was involved in the calculation.
Okay.
For that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Tanya or Kevin regarding these items? No? Okay.
Good.
All right. Thanks,
Well,
Tanya.
stop sharing, no problem.
Thanks.
So as we move on, I'll entertain.
I think there's a raised hand.
Oh, is that Julie?
Yes, I think that Renee has a raised hand.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Julie. Renee, go ahead. I'm sorry. I did not see with the screen share. I didn't see your hand up. I apologize.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I just wonder if Tanya's going to repeat the professional development portion again. I was slightly distracted, but I'm not sure that I heard that correctly. Tell me about the professional development.
So at the high school, obviously this is from the high school. This is not the elementary. But we, in our professional development, the regular professional development budget that is shared now in the elementary has their own and the high school has their own. This is not the contracted coursework that the teachers are allowed. This is the new budget that we created to separate out conferences and workshops from that contracted PD that each of the teachers is allotted. And Kevin assessed that line and spoke with his staff and went through the process of offering professional development. And that's where this eventually worked out to be so that they could purchase the textbooks they needed for their French. So again, he can answer that a little bit more because he brought that to me as a transfer request.
And I don't know if you mind if I jump in, Chris, and
Go
just
ahead,
to
Kevin.
clarify, it's actually for both French and Spanish, and it's
Okay.
not just paper. It's not just paper textbooks. It's both the electronic version and paper version. So just to clarify that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And I just looked at the purchase order specifically too for the textbook name. So
Thank you,
Okay.
Tanya.
Thank you.
Mike, you had your hand up?
We want to vote on this right now.
Yes, please. If there's a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the transfer request for the amount of $43,725 for the PV professional developments to textbooks, and the amount of $56.63 for the resource officer to district mentoring on the transfer request dated 12/10/20.
Thank you. Is there a second?
second, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Any discussion? Okay, I'll just go down the line. Karen,
Yes.
Mike,
Mike Townsley, yes.
Rena,
Rena, yes.
David,
Abstain.
Jim,
Yes.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
and myself, Kristen, yes. Okay, so the budget transfers pass. I just want to do another quick check-in. Nathan, have you joined us? I don't see him on my screen, so I just want to double check if he's here. No? Okay. All right. The lunch report for November of 2020, please.
Kristen, I have joined.
Oh, Nathan, hi. Thank you so much. Welcome.
So I think Mike is on. I've shared my screen again for that lunch report.
Okay, hold on 1 second, Tanya. Nathan, were you a part of the meeting when we just discussed the budget transfers?
I got the last part of it.
Okay. Would you like to vote?
I would like to abstain just because I didn't get all of it.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Tanya.
Actually, Mike's going to go over it. I was just presenting it on my
thank
screen.
Thank you for sharing it, Tanya.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, how was everyone tonight?
Doing good, thank you. How are you?
Staying warm, doing well.
Good.
Okay, so our lunch report is, it's fairly simple for November. We were able to bring in revenue-wise, $37,054.22. And we had a total outgoing expenses of $30,022.48. It shows us a net profit of $7,000 for the month of November. Little misleading because we do have our accrued expenses that we did accrue during the month of November. So if we take that off of our running balance for the school lunch program, so far we sit at positive $38,231.67, which is for us, that's very good over this month of December, and we'll see how far the positivity rate stays up and how often we have to go into our remote learning model. Having that cushion is it's going to help us.
Thank you, Mike. I just want to quickly check in with Michelle. I see that she raised her hand.
Actually, it has nothing to do with the lunch report. I have another transfer in my documents dated 12/10/20 that we did not discuss.
So those are transfers that do not require a vote. Those are just informational purpose only, and they are within categories. So those are just for your guys' information of transfers that are taking place within categories, and those do not require a vote.
Okay, sorry, Mike.
But if you have questions on them, I'm happy to answer them. I just am trying to, for sake of time.
Yeah, I do have a question, but let Mike finish. We can go back to that.
Does anyone have any questions or about anything that's contained here in the report?
I don't see any hands or anyone shaking their head. Yes, Mike.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, Michelle, do you want to ask your questions?
Yeah, I wanted to know what the unemployment was. Why there's transfer for additional help needed to process unemployment claims. How many unemployment claims are there?
So we are getting a ton. I do not know the exact number, but the amount of unemployment and fraudulent unemployment claims across the state and the nation are pretty insane right now. And we only have a certain amount of time to respond to them. So Suzanne discussed with Jonathan and myself having someone come in and assist her with those, in addition to all of the FMLA and FFCRA leave requests that are coming in that are substantially more than we would be handling in a normal year. And we're in audit season and open enrollment for the retirees for Medicare right now. So we have a individual that had actually helped in our payroll department before that's also a substitute in one of our schools that was willing to do some additional time. So this transfer is for the maximum amount of time that she would be allowed to assist our payroll department during this year. But our payroll coordinator has been putting in 50 to 60 hours a week. And unfortunately what that means then is she, in her contract, is building comp time that doesn't do us any good, because then we are losing her later on in the year, and there's really not a good time for our payroll coordinator to be out additional above and beyond the normal vacation time. So rather than having to deal with that and the backlog of all the additional stuff that's happening with human resources right now, it's a decision that Jonathan and I made to go ahead and have some extra help temporarily.
So it's this, I just want to make it clear, it's not an increase in unemployment that's going to affect the budget. It's false. It's a bunch of fraud. And I know about the fraud claims because John Leyden, I think, had one or two.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of all of them coming in that have to be processed and answered, and the administrative side of the emails and the confirmations and all of that that have to go out for that is very time consuming.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions as it pertains to that? Michelle, would you mind just doing me a favor and just lowering your hand, please, so I don't think that you have a question? Thank you so much. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Thank you, Tanya. The signing of the warrants has been completed. And then we'll move along to the subcommittee reports. I'll just go down and see. Negotiation subcommittee, anything? Doesn't seem like it. Building and grounds. Curriculum and personnel. Budget. Policy. I do want to speak about policy just briefly for our new members that have joined. The committee that was in place prior had made and took a vote to utilize the policy services that MASC provides because our policies were completely out of date. And there was so much work to be done. It was really challenging to make sure it got done within an appropriate time frame. So we have Tracy Novak from MASC who is guiding us during this process. And when the when the policy subcommittee is formed and begins to reconvene, she will be leading that group. So everybody is aware. Does anyone have any questions around that? Go ahead, Jeannie.
Have you made the subcommittee assignments yet?
Yes, I do, and we're going to talk about that. That's on our second page.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And district agreement, just to give everyone a brief update, Russell emailed the state. So Russell is our legal counsel. He has emailed the state to inquire as to the status of the district agreement that was sent to them for review and if there were corrections or advisements that needed to take place, and we are waiting on that from them. So when the district agreement is formed, we'll provide that document as soon as we receive it from the state, and the corrections can be made along with Russell's guidance. Okay. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Moving on to new business. Number 1, vote on winter sports.
Kristen,
Yes, go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we have a vote to accept the winter sports to move forward so that the kids can play as long as the MIAA and the state puts their plan into effect that allows them to play.
Okay.
I'll second that.
That's Michelle.
Yep.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there any discussion? I know we have Ernest here, who is our athletic director, and I see Alan's hand is up. So Ernest, if you would like, and I see Robin raised her hand. So Ernest, if you have some words that you would like to share with the committee.
Yeah, sure. So good evening, everyone. So before I start, I'd like to say that with the new guidelines and modifications, we had a very successful fall season. Our students did amazing at practices and competitions. In addition to our field hockey and cross country, we're able to add golf to Pioneer, and even more students were able to join and just go outside, and instead of just staring at a computer screens, they were able to see their friends, be physically active, practice, and compete. And our students did an awesome job at adapting to the new guidelines. Was there a question?
Perfect, thank you. So I saw Alan's hand was up and Robin's hand was up. So I'm not sure if they have questions for you, Ernest, or if they have discussion for the committee. Go ahead, Robin.
I just was jotting down a few questions. I know I'm new. Maybe these have been answered before, but if somebody could just quickly answer them for me. If school is not in session, are sport practices still happening?
Yes, the basketball team has been practicing three times a week in the evenings.
So Robin, do you mean not in session, like not attending in person in the school?
Yes, not attending in person.
Okay.
And how is that decision made?
So we had to vote on fall sports.
Right. Oh, I know, but how is the decision made to practice if school is not in session physically.
So the decision, so we received a presentation, John and Ernest, please step in at any point. When we voted on the fall, there was a presentation that was done, and because it's my understanding, because the coaching staff has nothing to do with the school being in session, the students are able to go in as long as the school committee votes for that to have happened.
So the school committee voted to say that it was okay for practices to happen, even though we were physically, students were not in school. That's already been taken. Okay.
Yep.
I had that question. And I did read over the MIAA rules for the basketball a little bit. And it wasn't clear in there that there was any testing that happened to, or maybe I missed it. There wasn't any testing that would go on for the students that were playing above and beyond any normal testing that would happen. Did anybody pick up anything else on that, or?
The only way we test if there are students show any positive symptoms, such as fever or any types of symptoms, then we send the students to get tested. And if they come tested, then we shut down the practices and any games for 2 weeks. That's the protocol.
Okay. And what's the date? Is there a date that I saw that the actual season would start in July? Was it January 5th?
Originally it was supposed to start on January 4th, and I received an email today again that is going to start now on January 11th.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Robin?
It does. I have one more.
Okay, sure.
Okay, sorry, but I just
That's okay.
the question about I looked all through your protocols, and I know I'm trying to understand it. I just want to know who actually makes the decision then, at what point would that decision be made about to continue with basketball? When you say winter sports, I'm assuming that's also the girls basketball and all the other winter sports that are going. We've only talked about basketball, but what other sports are involved?
The reason we're talking about basketball because originally we're supposed to have basketball and indoor track, but indoor track now has been moved to fall 2, which will be after the winter season.
Yeah.
So the only sport we have right now is basketball.
Okay, and there would be girls basketball also?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. I see Alan's hand and then Mike's hand, and then I saw Jim had a hand as well.
No.
Jim. Okay, all right. Sorry. So Alan and then Mike.
Okay, great. Robin asked some great questions because I had 3 of the questions you asked, Robin, were already answered. So thank you about the protocol. I'll just ask my couple of questions and then you can respond. At the very top, it said track has been moved to fall 2, and I didn't know what that means. Should that have said, the spring? It's moved to the spring.
No.
So what does that mean?
To clarify that, so our fall season has been broken down into 2 sections, fall 1 and fall 2. There are some sports that we kept fall 1, and there are some that we moved to fall 2. Because of the winter and the Smith College was not allowing anyone to go into their building, MIA has decided to move, or PVRSD has decided to move the indoor track into fall 2. Rather
Perfect.
than
All right,
having
thank
winter.
Thank you. And how many schools have decided to participate? So when you're looking at your schedule at this point, and the kids are waiting to see if they're going to be participating, how many already have given the green light for this in the
so far as
league?
I believe so far there are about 4 schools that have been given the green light, and many of the schools are actually going to go through their committee today to get approved.
Okay. And then I didn't see this in the protocol, so I guess it's just a suggestion. It's going to be a challenge if they're playing the game and they're going to wear their mask the full time. So I'm assuming from the MIAA document that they are. I thought maybe, I guess for consideration, because it wasn't in here, that any kid going into a game and coming out of the game, because they said they'll change a ball, at each quarter, It seemed like they would just sanitize their hands when they're going into a game and once again when they come out, just as an extra precaution. So I guess I'll just make that as a suggestion.
Sure. So we do encourage all the students to bring their own hand sanitizers in addition to one that we provide. So after the game, when there's timeouts or whatever there might be, so they could use their hand sanitizers.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, and then we'll go to Robin because I see Robin's hand is back up.
Okay, two things. My motion was for the winter sports. Robin made a good point. She brought up practice. Now we're talking about the winter sports, and if the MIAA decides to let them play, we're just starting the action to let them play if that proceeds. But currently, the governor's changed the rules as far as COVID. What does that do to our practicing as of right now, currently, with the schools closed? Because we're not voting on that, but I think that's key to where we're at right now with the schools closed, with the Christmas and Thanksgiving break and stuff happening. Are the kids still allowed to go and practice, or has something changed there that the numbers of who can in the building?
So they were able to, so Governor Baker, yes, moved from phase 3 to level 2 to level 1. That basically means skills and drills. Students are still able to go in and practice, but using only skills and drills.
Okay, thank you.
Robin, and then Nathan had his hand up as well.
Just my last question was, if schools remain closed, do games happen then or they don't? Like say the season starts and schools closed, if schools closed, are there no games?
Do you mean like if schools go remote?
Yeah, I'm sorry, if they close physically, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, if they're remote, we'll still be able to play.
That doesn't make sense to me, just for the record.
And then Nathan, you had your hand up, and then Julie, I see, has her hand up as well.
Yeah, I had a question about just if we are having kids play games with other people, right? Other towns. What is our level of like? What's like? How do we know that they are doing what they should be doing, right? So how do we know that like everyone's following the protocols, and how do we protect our students?
So I see Kevin had his hand up. I don't know if Ernest or Kevin, you wanted to speak to that. Because I heard Ernest say that we were just doing skills and drills due to Governor Baker's orders right now.
Yeah, so right now we're doing drills and skills, and we are constantly meeting with Franklin County athletic directors, and we're always talking about the regulations, guidelines, and modification. And I assure you, every single one of the athletic directors is taking this very seriously. All the students are following all the guidelines properly, including us. Our number one priority is safety of the students. So we're not going to jeopardize any of those things by not following some of the guidelines. So we cannot pick and choose everything. All the students, when come to our building, they have to have masks at all times. They have to be hand sanitized. Every single thing that I provided in the proposal, we have to follow it, or we'll have to shut down.
Kevin, did you want to speak to that as well? And I saw David had his hand up, and Alan had his hand up.
I was going to echo exactly what Ernest had said, and I also want to add that we also have a district nurse that is constantly looking over the metrics not only in our local towns but in our communities and in our county. All schools are going to follow what the Department of Health and work with the guidelines that are put forth by the state, and it goes back to what I think the coaches and the students said before. By voting yes, we're giving students a chance to play, following the guidelines that will be put forth and the restrictions that are put forth. That could possibly mean that if something happens, we don't have sports. But if you vote yes, at least they have that opportunity. If we vote no, there is no opportunity that exists for these students. And if you've raised kids within the sporting community, these kids start when they're in kindergarten these days, and they play these sports, and some of them play it year round up and through their senior year. And to not get that that chance and that opportunity their senior year is a huge hit, socially and emotionally, to these students.
So I'm going to go to Julie because she had her hand up, then Alan, Nathan, David. I think that's everybody who has their hand up. So Julie.
First of all, I just wanted to have the opportunity to speak before my fellow school committee members vote on this. So I am 100% in favor of sports. These kids are going to be wearing masks while they're playing the sports, which shows you how desperate they are to play sports. And if I'm wearing a mask and you're wearing a mask, even if one of us has COVID, the chances of us transmitting it to one another is nil. So I think that we need to remember that here. And these kids are following incredible safety guidelines, both in the schools and while they're playing sports. It's incredibly detrimental to them to not be able to play sports and sit instead behind a screen all day long. A couple of points of clarification. I believe that in phase 3, level 1, students are allowed to play games. Can you confirm that, Ernest?
There is some confusion right now about that. I think that was a proposal back in October by EEA. But again, we're still waiting for them to release their new guidelines since the Governor Baker rolled back its new modifications. Everything should be clear probably tomorrow or early next week.
Okay. And also, what about the co-op with the hockey program? Aren't Pioneer students involved in that?
Yes, so we have one student who's going to be co-oping with Greenfield.
That would be part of winter sports as well, just to keep in mind.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's it for me.
David?
This seems very risky to me. I'm not inclined to delegate this decision either, because we've seen some pretty weird rules for schools. 3-foot distancing for elementary students, for instance. Basketball is a contact sport. Football is a collision sport. I have a family member who's a Division I college athletic trainer. He's worked for the Chargers, for DC United, Virginia Tech, Indiana University, and he's been working 80-hour weeks. Conducting testing is a really big part of his job now. I'm not saying where it is now, but the coach there has tested positive. Games have been canceled, and he's leaving this field. This is big money Division I sports with all kinds of resources doing group testing. I'm not inclined, but I'd really like to hear from Jeannie, our school committee member and nurse.
And I do believe we also have Dr. Potee, who is here with us as well. And John, correct me if I'm wrong. Is Carla also present?
Yes, Carla's on also.
I do believe.
I'm also a nurse as well, just so everyone knows.
Julia is.
Okay, so.
So is Rob.
From David, I would like to go back to Nathan. And Alan has had his hand up for a while, and I saw Raina, and I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity. So, and please remember, if you do use the button to raise your hand, please make sure when you're done, if you can remove it. It's a little confusing when people leave their hands up. Thank you so much. Nathan, did you have a question? Nathan, you're on mute. If you're speaking, I can't hear you.
Oh, I am. Sorry. Thanks,
Okay.
Kristen. No
problem.
One of my concerns is how this would affect either hybrid or in-person schooling with the rest of the student population. Right?
Okay.
So
Ernest or John?
Well, my understanding is if, regardless whether a student wants to be in remote or hybrid, they'll still be allowed to come and practice and play the game.
So my question is more, if someone gets tested positive by playing basketball, what's the effect that that has on the rest of the student population at the school?
So as the protocol is, as soon as if the student on a basketball team is tested positive, the basketball will be shut down for 14 days.
And then we would follow the same protocols as in the other, any other case. I don't know, Carla, if you're on, if you want to speak to this, but, we would follow the same protocols that we have in place now.
Yeah, I'm on actually. So yes, exactly. We'd follow the same protocols that we do for during school time, which would involve, contact tracing and working with the state for their piece on the contact tracing. Would follow the same protocol as during a regular school day.
Thank you.
So as
Carla.
long as everyone's wearing their masks, and I think the protocols that have put in place for this is, there's no spectators in the gym. There's no people other than the team and the coach. There's masks at all time. There's distancing. The skills and drills time is literally skills and drills. There's no 1v1 play. There's no group play. It's literally shooting drills and those types of things. And I think, from seeing the kids from the time that they've been in school, these kids take this really seriously. They take these protocols really seriously. They want to be there, and they're not going to, mess around with jeopardizing that. So I can understand everyone's concern, but I do think that we have a really compliant group of kids and adults that are working with them.
Thank you, Carla. Nathan, does that answer your question?
It does. I just want to be clear that education is our primary thing here, and in-person education is really what we're going for, right? Whether it be hybrid or full in-person, that's what we're going for. I don't want to jeopardize that by doing anything else.
Thank you, Nathan. Alan?
I'll just add too, real quick, Nathan, I'm sorry. I'll just add quickly. So say in a scenario where a student that's part of the basketball team did test positive, it doesn't automatically mean that the school would close down. If that's kind of what the question is also, that doesn't mean the school would close down. That means that we would look and see what areas it would, we would contact trace. And so it wouldn't affect the whole school. It wouldn't mean that the school could not go back if we were in fact in hybrid.
Thank you, Carla. Alan and then Raina, because I saw Raina waving on her screen as well. So go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of things. One of them was, so we know what we'll do, and so I guess this is to Ernest. So if one of the schools we just played ends up with 3 or 4, whatever, that tested positive, how do we? Does their athletic director built into this that you're then notified, and then what do we do, if anything, to respond to that? Let me ask the second part of this, because I don't know, if we can only ask for testing. I know one of the colleges, and I don't know if this is expensive, but they have a thing in place where, I've never heard of this, where you actually can spit into a container. And all the kids in one section of the dorm will do that, and they put that out there, and they can actually tell, if someone has COVID, they know that, and then they come back, and then they can actually, go in and isolate it and test the kids to find out. Otherwise, everyone's safe and they can go on. I don't know if that's an expensive proposition. I don't know if you've, been following the research in that, but that would definitely increase my comfort level if something, if we had more testing. I understand that the difficulty with that. And I also want to say I'm really supportive of sports. So I want the kids to have an opportunity. I'm trying to get myself to a comfort level that I know there's going to be feedback, and that they're not just taking it serious in the other schools, but they will give information to us, and then what do we do as a result of that? Thank you.
And Jim, I just want to acknowledge I see your hand up, so we'll get to you, okay? That way you don't have to hold it up on the screen.
I can just jump in quickly, Ernest, if you'd like,
Yes.
On that one. So if a student were to test positive, that would be the same situation as if a student were to test positive in school. There's a whole process that comes into play. So they would contact tracing would, the nurses in the schools work with the contact tracers in the state from the Department of Public Health and our contracted local public health nurses. And with that, when we contract trace with that positive student, that would trace us back to where that student was, which would include that if they were at a game in our gym, they would contact myself or wherever that student was. So a process really does happen, and it's been working well. For example, the few situations that we've had to reach out to, the bus company and, all sorts of other places that are outside of our school. So it would work that same way in a sports situation.
And regarding the testing regarding the testing piece, have you heard of that
I have
procedure?
heard of that. There's all sorts of rapid tests now. There's a few different camps on that. The rapid testing isn't considered incredibly accurate, and it's also picks up current infections. So it's typically used for somebody, for example, the one that they're doing in the schools right now around the state is typically used on someone who's actually exhibiting symptoms. So remember, a test is just a little snippet in time. So if that person does not test positive, it does not mean that they're negative. So, it really comes down to watching for symptoms, monitoring for symptoms, and doing the safety precautions as far as the masking and the distancing as much as possible. And Ruth's on here too. I don't know if you want to add a piece on that, Ruth.
Yeah, Alan's describing surveillance testing of large populations where you can do it out of the septic system of an entire dormitory. It's actually the smartest way. If we'd had federal leadership on this is what we all would have done, but that is long gone from us. It's the cheapest way to approach it, but in the next 4 months of our miserable, dark winter, we're not going to get to that for a basketball team. But boy, it would have been smart, because it's a great idea, Alan, but it's not going to work for us. But you're right.
All right, and then I'm going to go to Raina, and Julie, and Jim too had his hand up. He was waving as well. So if we could go to Raina, and then Jim, and then Julie.
Yeah, I'll just make it quick. I also just wanted to say that I'm also an advanced practice nurse, and I was impressed reading the guidelines from the MIA about the safety precautions and the protocols in place, and I applaud the students for being motivated to follow them.
Thank you, Raina. Jim?
Yeah, we're doing what we do best. We're reinventing the in winter sports. I heard Coach Thayer say voting to give the kids an opportunity. He didn't say, is that right, Ernest?
Yes, so
we're not saying that we're going to have a basketball season.
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying that we're going to have games. We're voting to give them the opportunity if Massachusetts decides to have a basketball season. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, so your approval does not guarantee competition. It just provides an opportunity to possibly have competition going.
Exactly.
That's basically it.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to go to Julie. Then I saw David's hand go up, and I saw Nathan's hand after that, please.
Actually, Carla and Ruth both said what I was going to say, so I'm all set.
Okay. Thank you. David?
I've heard they'll shut down for 14 days if we get a positive test result. But I've also heard that we are only going to test if someone's symptomatic. By that time, they could be shedding a lot of virus, and there are people who could be infected and infectious who are not symptomatic. I'm on a private school. I'm a private school trustee at a residential boarding school. We test every week. And as I said, athletic programs are testing. It's shameful in a way, because we've got better things to do with those resources. But I wonder, what would Dr. Fauci say to us holding the door open for this right now? I think he'd say, stand down, go golf alone, go bowling alone.
Thanks, David. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say? No? Okay, thank you. Nathan, did you have something that you wanted to say? I don't see your hand up anymore.
I did. My hand's back
Okay.
up. I am 100% behind kids doing activities. They need stuff to do. They need to be active. My only concern is that we might compromise the ability to have hybrid or in-person school by having sports, right? So I would much rather see a intramural program start where it's just the kids in each school playing each other and then developing it from there. As the situation changes, we could go to other things, but I think it's better just to start with kids in the schools playing each other and then going from there.
Okay, so just to
Carla-
let you know, can I reply to that, please? Just to let you know that
Sure,
we
go
had
right
a
ahead,
full season this year. We had 3 different sports. Students followed all the guidelines, all the regulations, so did the coaches, and none of the students ever tested positive. None of them became infected. Okay, so I feel like we are doing a disservice if we vote no to this. I think we're
Were those
expecting to do the exact same
indoor
thing.
sports? Were those indoor sports?
No, they're outdoor sports, but however,
Right.
we had
So now we're
sports.
talking indoor sports. So this is different.
Right, but again, we are following specific guidelines from MIA, which requires students to maintain 6 feet apart during the game. It takes a lot for students to get used to those new modifications. Although they are difficult, they are still willing to accept those and adapt to those new guidelines.
Ernest,
I
could
understand
I
it's
just,
not perfect, but that's the best we can come up with the state.
Ernest, can I just ask you a quick question, if you wouldn't mind, please? It's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong from what I've heard thus far, given the governor's step 3, level 1, and the MIAA, we are only talking about skills and drills practice,
That's it.
correct? No one has determined that there will be games. There have not been schedules established. We are just talking about our students remaining in our building, practicing with the same students that are enrolled in our district, right? So Pioneer students just going into the gym and practicing skills and drills.
That is correct.
As time goes on, and I hate to assume, but I feel as though you've been very thorough during this process, providing communication, you would keep us informed about the next steps and the meetings of the MIA that you attend, and where our neighboring communities, schools are at with what's happening with schedules and games. And that is to be determined right now, given the unknown. So I just want to be clear.
Yes, that's correct, and absolutely. If the like I said, things are changing on a regular basis. The things have been changing since March, and the expectation is that it's going to continue to change, and it's expected to change throughout the winter season, fall 2 season, and spring season. We just have to adapt and do the best we can to make sure our kids are participating in some sort of activities. I'm both a teacher and an athletic director, and I can see the frustration students have just staying at home, not moving around, and just being frustrated. And you could see their frustration during academics. It is not productive when you can't possibly expect students to sit there for 6 hours straight and expect them to learn being constructive, being productive. It's impossible. Students need to get out there and participate. I understand that academics are a priority, but so is we cannot have academics without any physical activities. Students cannot possibly learn without having any types of, outdoor events or some kind of activities that require them to be physically active. We need to have this.
I was going to say, as a parent myself of an adolescent, I see every day what it is like for the online learning to happen. And my concern for our adolescents and our youth in our district is the impact on not only their physical health, but their mental health, as there are minimal outlets for them right now to be able to exercise their minds and bodies. And I'm concerned about if we weren't going to allow them to just practice and do skills and drills, what that might mean. So I did see Nathan's hand. Mike's was, and then Nathan. So If Mike could go first and then Nathan, please.
I'd like to move the vote, please. I think we've discussed it long enough.
Oh, okay. Nathan, did you have another question or?
Not necessarily a question. I am with everyone else. Yes, our kids need activities. Our kids need to do things outside. We need to do it responsibly. We need not to jeopardize the possibly in-person or hybrid model that we're doing. That's my only concern. So as long as there are guidelines and we're doing it appropriately, I'm on board.
Thank you. And Carla and Ruth, can you just clarify, please, would this have an impact on that, on the hybrid learning model? Or John, could someone just clarify that, please?
It would not necessarily affect what was happening in the school, particularly during the time if they're doing skills and drills and the rest of us are remote right now. It wouldn't change whether or not we could go back to hybrid when we're going back to hybrid. What it would change is if a student were to become positive, then that student, of course, wouldn't be able to come back. There's a process that that student would have to follow, and the close contact that student would have to follow also.
And that
but it wouldn't
process
necessarily change whether or not we could come back to a hybrid program.
Okay, thank you.
We could have made the decision for everybody to cancel Thanksgiving and the upcoming Christmas and mandate that nobody's allowed to leave their house or leave our region to go to the holidays. And we couldn't do that because we don't control people's lives. But that's where this community spread has happened. It's been from adults giving it to adults and then adults giving it to kids. In general, the kids don't seem to pass it to each other, especially the elementary kids. I am going to make the point as the parent of athletes is that I sure as heck hope that we would encourage our drama students to be able to get on stage with their masks on, and anything else we can do to support our kids surviving what is going to be a life-changing and mental health life-changing event. I would have all of our kids back in the classroom today still because our numbers remain okay. They're going to get worse. I've said that all along, and they have gotten worse, but I think that the right plans are in place now, and a decision in 3 weeks that could reverse this entire course could be made. We could pull back at any point.
Thank you, Dr. Poti. All right, Alan, you have your hand up, and that's the last question because we do have other items on our agenda and we do need to continue to move forward, please.
Yeah, no, I just made the point, Chris, about the mental and emotional health. I think that's an important one. I do want to clarify because I don't think I understood, Ernest, you said that the kids, when they're playing the game, will stay 6 feet apart while they're playing the game. Did I hear that right? Because I'm thinking rebounds and
guidelines put out there that against social distancing, the games is going to be completely different. It's going to look different. And our students need time to adapt to those new changes. They need to learn how to play with new rules, with new modifications. And that's part of it, yes. Students have to be seated 6 feet apart on the bench. Students are going to have to play 6 feet apart. We're doing, like I said, everything possible.
All right.
Thank you.
So
that helps.
we have a motion on the floor, and again, so Mike made the motion, Michelle seconded, and I'd like to move forward with the vote. So I'd like to go down the line, please. Karen? You're on mute, Karen.
Yes.
Thank you. Mike?
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Raina?
Raina Dowster, yes.
David?
David, no.
Jim?
Yes.
Nathan?
I'm going to abstain.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Nathan. I apologize. Could you repeat that, please?
That's okay. I'm going to abstain.
Okay, you're going to abstain. Okay. Jeannie?
Yes.
Julie?
Julie Burke, yes.
Alan?
I will take a leap of faith and say yes.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
And myself, Kristen, yes. So the motion passes to move forward with athletics for winter. Okay? Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the discussion and the question and answers. Next on topic on our agenda is the 6th grade reconfiguration update. And if I could turn this over to John and Kevin, please.
Sure. I think Kevin's got a presentation. He's going to share his screen with everyone.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving our students an opportunity to play winter sports. I'm sure they greatly appreciate it. We were asked by the school committee to put forth some information regarding bringing 6th grade up to Pioneer Valley Regional. I am going to present a presentation. It goes along with the document that I shared out with the school committee that has more detailed information, but this is a summary of the information, and I'll go over it. And if you have questions, feel free to either raise your hand or interrupt as I go through. I'd be happy to address them as I go through the slides. All right. So the first part I'm going to go through are positions needed moving up. We have 4 teachers that would be 4 teaching positions that would be moving up from the Northfield and Bernardston. With those 4 teachers, we would create a science, math, social studies, and English position. That also, if you're not muted, can you mute? Because if I hear you in the background, it makes me pause. I hear all the background noises. Thank you. We would also need additional staffing. Currently, looking at our physical education load, we only have 1 full-time PE teacher. We would need a half-time PE teacher to come in order to actually provide PE for 6th grade students coming up. We would need technology. Currently, we don't have art in our middle school. I know when I talked to people, they've actually were surprised, but we only have, we have 1 art teacher, and that is utilized by our high school students. If we got a 0.5 art teacher, not only would we be able to continue to offer it to our 6th grade students, our middle school students would then get that as an option too. Increasing our music chorus teacher so that 6th graders could continue to get music and expand our music program. A 0.5 school adjustment counselor to that would help offset the load that is on the school counselors and the school psychologists right now, and also the increase of a switch of a dean of students to a full-time assistant principal. And I'll go through more information on these two. Science, math, social studies, and English positions. I think I've covered the first 2 points, but we do want these teachers to have middle school certifications. Some of the teachers in 6th grade already currently do, but I think there are some who have mentioned they are retiring next year. But this would enable them to not just teach 6th grade, but also assist in teaching the other grade levels as well. The other required positions was the physical education, which I explained, the art position, which I explained. One of the things that's important is, and I know we've had this conversation a lot about school adjustment counselors, is currently we have the middle school counselor has a caseload of 120 students. This is going to increase the caseload to 163 students to the middle school counselor. If you were to observe Mr. Soicher during the day and what he does, I'm surprised he doesn't ride his bike around to get to where he needs to go as quickly as he needs to, or buy a pair of roller skates. It is amazing what he does on a regular basis and how he supports our students. And I think if you talk to students and families, that they would echo that sentiment. one of the things that gets brought up a lot is that the Association of School Counselors recommends a ratio of 250 students per one school counselor. Need to keep in mind that that recommendation is made when there is a team, a full team of counseling, meaning that there is a school counselor, a school adjustment counselor, and a school psychologist. Right now, we only have 2/3 of that team. We are missing the school adjustment counselor part. So that's an important aspect to understand. Administration, we would be increasing our teacher load by at least 6 additional teachers, depending on what you approve. This is a significant increase in evaluations. That would bring up the evaluations that I would do as a principal up to 35 total over a year. Talk to any administrator, that is an immense evaluation load. In order to decrease that load, the Dean of Students does not do evaluations. That was part of the job description. So we would need to switch that to an assistant principal. And I do want to point out that Kathy Hawkins Harrison is certified and qualified to be an assistant principal and has been in the past. This also will be increasing our school by about 40 students, administrative duties, and we'll also be adding an additional MCAS testing grade level. So with working through all that, having that change in administration would be definitely beneficial, not only to administration, but would be beneficial to our students and teachers. Technology, we currently have a 0.5 technology, and in order to, that teacher is completely maxed out, just teaching 6th and 7th grade and teaching virtual high school. We would need to increase that to bring in that technology training courses to our students. And as I just talked about, music chorus, and I know that's really important in Pioneer, and we want to continue to offer that. And we actually have 2 really great, amazing music. Our chorus teacher has been amazing, and our new band teacher has also been amazing. We actually have a student right now who is auditioning for the all-state band. So our current middle school staffing is this. We have an English teacher, a math teacher, social studies, science, and 0.5 technology. And with that, right now, we have high school teachers assisting in teaching classes. So math, social studies, and science all have one high school teacher teaching classes. We went through, and I showed this to the reconfiguration committee. Right now, we switched because of hybrid. We switched to an 8-block schedule. We added H block, which means teachers are now teaching 6 classes out of 8 blocks. Where before hybrid, we had a 7-block schedule where teachers taught 5 out of 7. So right now, and with the information I gave for class sizes, that we're averaging close to 20 students per class in the middle school level. That's with adding a block to reduce class sizes to ensure we had safe social distancing. If we went back in person, that was the thought process when we made that change in the summer. So when we look at the numbers and the numbers I showed you in the document, that's really important that you actually, if we go back and hopefully we're back to normal next year with the news of the vaccine coming out, we go back to a 7-block schedule, you could add actually about an average of 5 students per each of those classes, to give you an idea. These are the rotation electives. We want to continue to offer 6th grade students rotation electives. So that basically means by rotation, they go to a particular elective for a certain amount of time. Right now we have 5 rotations going through the 7th grade, and that split up over the year. So we would do the same thing with the 6th grade. So they would have, maybe a food class for a certain point in time. They would have art. They would then have introduction technology, and that would flip through a 5-cycle rotation. This is what we're looking at financially. using a average of $55,000 for a teacher, a full-time teacher, which is what we use when we do our budget process. We're looking at the required staff of the 4 teachers that are already part of our system, and then adding a PE teacher, an art teacher, and a school counselor, and increasing the dean of students to an assistant principal job. And that would total a $107,000 increase to make this happen. If we went with the ideal and we added in the technology and the music to ensure that all our students were getting these electives and getting these programs that we all want our students to have, we'd be looking at around an increase of about $160,000. And what I want to stress is, if you go forward and approve moving the 6th grade up, it's going to be really important to fund these positions to make sure that this support happens. If these positions are not funded and we move the 6th grade up, we are going to be doing a large disservice to our 6th grade students. And that's really important to understand while you're making this vote, that yes, we can talk about many different reasons on why we want to move the 6th grade students up, the benefits to keeping them in elementary, the benefits to moving them up. But what's really important is if we do move them up, this is what's needed to make it work and make it work correctly, so that we're supporting our students in their education. Other considerations to look at is we are going to be increasing our language learners. We currently have 3. We would then have 4 English language learners in our school. That means we would have 4 out of the 6 English language learners in our district. And we don't have many English language learners. We do have a small community in regards to that. But we do need to revisit the ELL program. And I know I've had conversations with the special ed director who does oversee the ELL, and we would have to look at that and make sure we are servicing those students correctly. Just to let you know, we do currently have a licensed ELL teacher in Northfield. We do not have a licensed ELL teacher in the at Pioneer. So we definitely have to look at that and see how we can make a change. We also have to look at the fact of by moving students up from 6th grade, there's a possibility of students that are in the Hive, which is the elementary behavioral program, also moving up. So if there's a student that's in that program, we do not have a behavior program up at Pioneer. So we would have to look on how we service and support that student in an inclusive environment. So those are all things we'd have to look at. Another thing is Title I services. PVRS does not qualify for Title I services, but Northfield and Bernardston do. Northfield is using those services. Any 5th graders that are currently using those services, and the hope is obviously that as they move from 5th to 6th, they're not requiring as much services, but any student that moves from 5th to 6th that still requires those services, we would not be able to offer them coming in at 6th grade. We would have to look at other ways to support those students. And the other impact I would look at too, and this could be a positive, this could be a negative, but it will occur, is the 6th grade testing scores will be added to our accountability data at Pioneer. So that will be an impact in the long run. Curriculum frameworks, from a curriculum perspective, this is where moving 6th grade up really definitely works. If you look at the state frameworks, look at English, science, and social studies, it's actually divided into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade curriculum. Math is actually the only core curriculum framework that doesn't break it up by grade, like that. It breaks it up by grade level. But interestingly enough, if you look at this chart, I don't know if you can see it well enough on the screen, but as you can see, if you look at preschool through 5th grade, it's completely different as far as the domains that are covered from 6th through 8th, and the only overlapping domain is geometry. And if you think about the geometry that's taught in the elementary school versus the geometry that's taught in middle school, it's a different type of geometry. You start integrating algebra into that geometry versus looking at shapes and finding out, what is a polygon. So I think that's really important to take into consideration that from a curriculum standpoint, it does make sense. We will get teachers in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade working together and have a curriculum that is more thorough throughout. Room allocation, we can do it with the room allocation, and we can do it by keeping all the students in the middle school area. I'm not going to go through every single room, but if people had questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them, but it definitely can be done. Impact on the elementary school, since I am not an elementary school principal, I'm going to either have Megan or Kelly, if they are still on, to speak to this part.
Sure, I'm happy to jump in. Kelly can jump in as well. So as Kevin had just said, well, actually, first, generally speaking, we know that each individual student is different, but generally speaking, there's a shift when kids get into 6th grade, size-wise, body, developmental, maturity, etc. And so the thought is that they would have a stronger developmentally appropriate peer group in the 6th through 8th grade model, compared to being in a school with preschool all the way to 5th grade. And as Kevin was just speaking about, our 6th grade teachers while they participate in all of our professional development and such, there are many times where their needs aren't necessarily being met because of that split that Kevin was just speaking about. So whether we're looking at purchasing programs or doing the professional development or having conversations across grade levels, their conversations really need to be had with the 7th and 8th grade team of teachers. And so that ultimately ends up shortchanging the students a bit because of the type of professional development that we can offer in the elementary setting, in the elementary schedule, and so forth. So certainly that would be a benefit if the 6th grade teachers were aligned with their like colleagues. I don't know if I can't see my full screen, so I'm not sure if Kelly wants to jump in, or I can keep going, or
No, I can jump in.
Okay.
I definitely agree with both what Kevin has already said to kind of start it and what Megan has said. We also, as just a fact of endpoint for moving the 6th grade up, is that it would reduce the student population at the elementary schools. In that reduction, it would also create more space for possible new programming opportunities, possible current programming needs that might be taking place. So some examples for possible new programs could be that of more preschool classrooms, and then more current programming needs could be within our district-wide programs. Kevin had currently touched on one of them as the Hive. Again, abilities that could be taking place and having a new program with preschool classrooms, there is the potential to attract more families to the district at an earlier age. I know that has come up as a discussion in regards to a declining population for our area and for our school district, and I know that that's been an area of concern. It's not a guarantee, but there's definitely possibilities. I think that's about it on that one, Kevin, for us.
All right, thank you, both of you, for adding that in.
Oh, I see a hand raised. I don't know if we want to have Alan jump in.
Alan, do you have a question?
I thought they were done their presentation. I would, if they're not done, I'll wait until they have finished.
I think we have a few more
Great.
slides.
Good, okay.
Thank you.
So I know some of the conversation has been about school choice, and I think that's important because one of the things we're looking at is keeping Pioneer going. At least that's one of the things I hope we are looking at, and sustaining our district and keeping the community schools that we have. And one of the things I wanted to point out, the data that I put together, is if you look at and compare the 7th and 12th grade school choice of out of district to public schools versus school choice into Pioneer, we're actually school choicing more students in from a 7th to 12th grade level into our school than we're school choicing out in public schools, which says a lot about our school, says a lot about our community, that the surrounding public schools in towns, that people are being, parents are making that choice to send students to us. The other place that we get students from are Vernon. This is another thing to think about, because now we would begin in 6th grade. Vernon students would not come to us until 7th grade. You know, we have increased our tuition students to a total of 15 this year. We had an increase of 5 this year. We had Dr. Heffernan had gone out and actually showcased our innovation lab to the Vernon students. I went out there with our dean of students and our school counselor, and we presented to 4 students, which we thought was a small number, but all 4 of those students ended up coming to our school in 7th grade. So it was a worthwhile night. And if we can continue to bring in 4 students a year and have 4 students per grade level, that would be a great increase for our school as far as tuition students in. One of the places that, you know, it's hard to compete is we're not a vocation school, we're not a charter school, and we're not private schools. And if you look at, these are where our school choice numbers, we're losing 66 students to vocation through 9th through 12th grade, 26 to charter schools, 28 to private and parochial schools. That's hard to compete with as a public school. And that's why I put the initial data in, that it's really important to look at the fact that as a public school and comparing us to other public schools in the area, we're a desired place to go. And I thank everyone that has put time and energy into making Pioneer what it is, should be out at that data and celebrate it. Another thing that we've talked about over time is research. And, you know, you can get research from a lot of different places. I went to sites such as ERIC, Clearinghouse. They're all educational research sites that's as educators where we get our research from. It's hard to find research that connects directly to our school and our district and our region, because generally if you're going to do research, you're going to do a large sample size. So we are definitely a small sample size. But the research I put out there, and for some highlights, and in what I shared with the school committee, there are more detailed reports. This report talks about grade configuration. This one said 6th grade pass rates were significantly higher in elementary schools than in middle schools. 7th grade pass rates in elementary schools were also, and this finding basically said that students benefit from remaining in elementary schools, but this even says through at least 7th grade. So that already, I mean, we already have students in 7th grade. This is a K through 8 through 6 through 8 model. The results here, this looked at 3 different questions. One was academic performance in English, one was in math, and one was attendance rates. They said that students attending K through 8 school perform better than 6 through 8 in ELA exams, but actually poorer in math exams. So there was a reverse correlation on that, and there was no difference in attendance rates. Another research that looked at configurations, the conclusion was that students from schools didn't have significantly different perception of engagement, and engagement is something we're all looking at. So this particular research says engagement shouldn't be affected depending on what we do grade-wise. This one looks specifically at starting middle school at 6th grade. This is data was from North Carolina. Higher infraction rate by 6th graders who are placed in middle school, and at least through 9th grade. So this is kind of more of a behavioral study as far as, you know, the impact of the older students to the younger students, and the impression they have of being with those students. So that's where this study was based off of. Another research that looked at substance abuse and violence. Interestingly here, they said there was no differences, except actually that suicide attempt rates for girls attending were higher for girls attending elementary schools at that age level rather than middle school, which was pretty interesting. And this was a preliminary study anyway. That was the research that I had. That was the data that I was kind of asked to gather. And at this point, I'm happy to answer questions, and up to you to figure this one out.
Thank you, Kevin. So if I could just ask, I see Alan's hand up first, so we'll begin with Alan.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Am I? Kevin, I want to thank you for having a balanced report. I think that I have a lot of respect for that. And also for your interest and enthusiasm, for being willing to take a look at this and see. And it was also refreshing to see that you used some evidence-based research to kind of look at both sides of this. So kudos to you on that. A couple of points I want to make. I think there's a tremendous benefit educationally for kids to stay in a K-6 setting. And one of the things that struck me when I was reading the superintendent's report, and he was talking about some of the things that the sixth graders were doing, they have an opportunity to mature more, to be the leaders, if you will, of the school and have a real positive influence on the kids and have a role model. And I see that happening in the elementary schools, and so that's good for their self-esteem. It's good for the class respective collectively, as well as the influence they're having on the other kids. So that extra time in the elementary school, I think, is really really critical. The research that you gave, I mean, they've been looking at this for years, and trying to figure out what's the best model. And it depends on what's where you want to look at it. It seems to be pretty consistent that kids that stay in the sixth grade in a K-6 system tend to test pretty well, and they have fewer disciplinary problems. They have they're not in an environment that might have some kids that I'll say forget the rules a lot. and so educationally, I'm just going to say I really do support them staying in a K-6 environment. And I put that first, not the financial impact. I did take a look at that and say, well, if you do this and we hire teachers and so forth, we're looking at not just this first year of implementation, and I have no idea what the budget's going to show later on. So this is sort of in the background of my thinking. The educational piece is more important to me. But we have financial obligations to teachers and to the benefits and to the fiduciary responsibilities and obligations beyond that, and the professional development. Good teaching is good teaching. And so if you have teachers that need to work with and can, in a professional learning community, you have opportunities, can meet with the 7th and 8th grade teachers, and also have someone come into the school district and provide that. Math has always been kind of a hard area for teachers to I don't want to say understand, but to put those principles out there in a way that kids can learn from them. So I don't know what this looks like in terms of looking at like a 5-year projection. We know it's around 160 something thousand this year. As we play that out and our obligations increase, I would not like to see that end up hurting in the overall district in terms of looking at elementary and across the district, that we have to make cuts to support that. So I'm going to leave it at that, because that's not the highest priority for me. Educationally, I think that's a good decision to be doing ever, but particularly now. So thank you for the balanced research.
Mike, you had your hand up next.
Yes. First off, I'd like to thank Kevin and the staff for getting this together in the time frame that they had. Very good. We had a good meeting last week, which gave us the information. I would like to make a motion, and the reason I want to make a motion is so we can proceed into having discussion if there is a second on it. And then if we're done with the discussion, we can move into a vote instead of doing it backwards like we typically do. So I'd like to make a motion that 6th grade moves up to Pioneer Valley Regional High School, middle school, for the fall of 2021. And then we get a second, then we can discuss.
I second that. This is Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, now we're open for discussion.
Oh,
And I'm just gonna ask,
all right.
if folks, I don't know if people mean to, but if you could please place yourself on mute if you're not speaking. I see Karen's hand up, Mike's hand up, and those are the two hands I see thus far. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, I thank the people who've already made some comments, and Kevin for working with the entire committee. We have worked on this for a while and I've learned a lot. One of those things is we have to think about the 7th and 8th grade as well, not just the 6th grade. By making this move, we are able to provide things that we have not been able to provide, and it strengthens the whole middle school, I believe. Instead of bringing teachers in from the high school to teach extra sections of 7th and 8th grade, we'll be able to cover that with people who are dedicated to the middle school, and they will be right there, and they will be able to work with each other and coordinate and have informal conversations with each other every day. So that's my piece. Somebody else's turn.
Thank you, Karen. Mike, and I did see Raina's hand also come up after Mike, please. And then I just saw Julie's hand pop up. So we'll go Mike, Raina, and Julie.
Oh, thank you. I think the biggest part here, there's a big gap that needs to be filled at the 7th and 8th grade level, as Karen just alluded to. And moving the 6th grade up there will help, improve that structure. So the kids are getting an excellent education, pre-K all the way through to 6th grade right now. They get into the 7th, 8th grade, and there's fundamentals missing. I mean, art's one of them. There's things that Kevin talked about adding that are critical to when they get to the high school that they're going to be starting, but they've had this gap where they weren't getting it in 7th and 8th grade. And I think this move helps shift us into providing a better education earlier to improve their high school experience. In that, there is something that we could sell to other towns in other the other districts out there to help bring in more kids, because we used to have a lot of the school was different probably 10 years ago when my kids went there. Time flies, so it could be a little bit longer than that, but we need to improve our offerings, and I think this will get us there. As far as the finance piece to it, I think for what we can offer the 6th graders, along with 7th and 8th, to improve their experience in middle school, to help carry them through the high school, I think that the funding should be at the ideal of what Kevin just presented to us. And that amount that he gave us of the $157,000 for what we can offer, I think will be offset with possibly more school choice coming in, down the road. But I think we need to get this started so we can improve everybody's education, similar to what we did for improving district-wide at the elementary school levels of splitting most of the classrooms in the elementary schools to have smaller class sizes for everybody in the district at the elementary level. This would help out in the middle school with providing better experience with having more offerings for the kids. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And I just want to acknowledge after Julie speaks, I saw Nathan's hand and then Robin's hand as well. So go ahead, Julie.
Thank you. So a couple of points that I wanted to make. An excellent selling point for me, and Mike just referenced it. We do have more kids choicing in to Pioneer than we have choicing out, related to apples to apples other public schools. That is huge, 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 huge. So when you have kids from other districts that are in 5th grade, that parents really feel like their children are ready for, to go to a middle school environment, it's going to be even more attractive for those families to potentially choice in, given that they feel that their kids are ready. I know out of my 3 kids, two of which are still in the district and one just graduated, 2 would have been, out of the 3 would have been really ready for 6th grade to be in a middle school environment. To reduce the elementary school space, so that they're able to add more programs and have more classroom space is also an enormous selling point. And also, I did my own research on this. And, as Mr. Burke mentioned, it's difficult to find recent data on this as well. Even all the studies that were referenced are quite old. We're talking most of them being 10 or 15 years old. And a lot has obviously happened since then. As far as some of the things in the studies that I saw were specifically surrounding bullying. And this is from 10 or 15 years ago, before the programs were put in place, the very strict anti-bullying programs that we have now. So, I want everyone to just kind of take the articles with a grain of salt. I'm all for evidence-based research, and that's where I always begin. But there is very little up-to-date evidence-based research on this topic. So I believe that it's a very strong move that will benefit both really the entire district, because I believe it will benefit the elementary school as well as Pioneer.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to go to Raina because I believe I forgot her when I was reciting the names last. So I apologize, Raina. Then we'll go to Robin and then Nathan.
That's okay. I just want to express a concern about the timeline. I feel that fall of 2021 is a bit of a rush. It's doable, but it's also on the heels of 2 academic years that have been interrupted by COVID. And we have developmental, social, and educational gaps that are going to have to be made up already once we're able to go back in full in person, which we were hoping was going to be in September, but it wasn't. So we don't know that September 2021 is going to be the time. We'll have lots to make up. There's also pretty significant news in terms of the staffing, and so to give us a little bit more time to plan, to maybe have 6th grade teachers work on certifications that they may need before they move into those positions, and also just to give the students a chance to have that preparation, to know when they start in September that that's going to be their last year in their elementary school. It is really important for developmentally. So that's all.
Thank you, Raina. Robin, and then Nathan, and then Mike just raised his hand as well.
Hi, I just had a few comments and some notes that I was taking. I do agree with Julie. I did look at the dates of those studies, and I just want to second what she said about that. I wanted to know about any potential savings in the school budget. Or I noticed that how can we actually make a vote like this without knowing that we can get the financial commitment for what it's looking like Mr. Kevin is asking for? Is there a savings in the elementary school budget that could offset some of that? Because we would have to be going to the towns because this would be an increase. Let's see, that's 1, 2, where's number 3? I also was wondering, just as a matter of thing, is there a subcommittee that is looking at this? And is that Mike, is he the head of the subcommittee? Is the recommendation from the subcommittee that we do this?
So there was not a subcommittee. This was a task force that was created last year by the administration. And
Okay.
when we talked about this last year amongst the school committee members, there were some school committee members that expressed interest in participating in that. So it was driven by the administration, the study itself.
Okay, and the task force, am I to understand that their recommendation is that we do this, or, so that's a question I had. 1, 2, 3. And also, I do want to also say, I'm sure that you all got the letters from the parents. Most of the letters that I saw expressed, I think 3 out of 4 expressed real concern about this happening. I also noticed in the literature that you sent out that overwhelmingly the parents don't support this. And I was just wondering how we would be addressing that, because it seems like the survey that was done was not supportive of this at all. And we certainly want to at least be aware, at least note that they didn't support, that the parents aren't supporting it. And some of those issues I would have to answer. They talked about not being top dog in the school. Well, that would change because 5th grade would then be top dog. And I know everybody's been affected by COVID this year. And I don't know that if we're going to do this, actually putting it off a year would make a whole lot of difference, because 6th grade didn't get to graduate last year. It's kind of a weird 6th grade this year. So I don't know, by holding it off for another year, those 6th graders this year are going to move up anyway to 7th grade next year. So I don't know that there's ever going to be a perfect time for every student if this goes forward. And I think that's it. Thanks.
Kristen, can I just add a few comments to what
Or
Robin
go
had
right
said?
ahead, Kevin.
One of the things I do want to address, two of the surveys are from 2017, or research, one's from 2018. Some of the other ones are definitely like 2005, 2010. So some are more recent, some are older. I also want to address the fact that the information in the survey done by the parents was something that was done almost a year ago.
Okay.
And I think that, so I don't want people thinking that there was a survey that went out recently and this is from this year. This was done, I think, last December, January, if I'm correct. And I think one of the faults of that survey was there wasn't enough information provided to parents about what it would look like and what would happen. I think that probably lended to a lot of hesitation. But I just wanted to clarify that. So,
Having sat in the audience when that parent forum took place last year, when this all began, I recall that there were a tremendous amount of questions from the families who did attend about what it would look like. And at that point, it was a lot of questions were around, what will it look like? What will classes look like? Will my kids have access to the older upperclassmen? And how will busing happen? So I think, Kevin, like you said, I think some of the information was not available at that time because things were just starting up when the discussions began. So a lot of that concrete information was not had, whereas today you were able to present that and formulate some answers to all those questions that were presented way back when. So
yeah. And I think the goal of administration back then was to have that survey initially present information and then do another survey. And then obviously as we were going through that transition, the pandemic hit and this all fell apart. So
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, Robin. Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, well, just about the financial piece. And I also want to say that, my kids, we all went to Leiden, and by the time my children were in 6th grade, they were ready to be out of a very, very small school. I think that was a particularly hard year for my children in Leiden. Because if you didn't fit in, you didn't fit in at all because there was only 2 others or 3 others. So that, I don't think that that's an issue now because we have a bigger, larger population in Northfield and Bernardston. But the financial piece I'm a little concerned about because it sounds to me like if you're going to do this, you got to be sure that we're going to be able to fund this. And how is that going to happen? And
so I see Tanya's hand up, and I'm sure she's prepared to answer this question. I want to acknowledge that Nathan, I saw your hand. Michelle, I saw your hand, and Mike, I saw your hand. So Tanya, if you wouldn't mind speaking, I see your hand up. And
yeah. So to answer the question about the financial piece, Kevin, thank you for putting all of that together. He did collaborate with me on that as well. So I have reached out and I've briefly spoken with the elementary principals about what this would do on the elementary side as far as changing what their specialists' time needed would be. That is not solidified at this point. There probably will be some small savings. So it's not going to be a direct offset, but I want to just echo what Mike said, that if we keep looking at education as being all about the numbers, we're going to keep losing students because we have taken away programs year after year to get our budget to meet what the towns want to pay. And we've cut ourselves to a point now that if we continue to cut programs, we're not going to have any programs to bring students in. So this is our chance to create a stronger education at the middle school, high school, create the middle school team that the staff has been asking for since I stepped foot in the door 3 years ago. And I think it will not only strengthen the education of our students, but it's also going to provide opportunities for those students in Vernon that want to come to our district, as well as some of our surrounding areas.
thanks, Tanya. Nathan, you had your hand up, and then Michelle, Mike, and John, did you want, I see you just put your hand up. Did you want to contribute?
Yeah, I can like to contribute, when everybody else has had a chance.
Okay, thank you. So Nathan?
Yeah, I have a question about the cost, essentially, and what that takes away from our elementary schools. Like we talk about bringing kids into the district, the way we bring kids in is through the elementary schools, right? That's how we build our student population. So by taking away resources from the elementary schools and focusing them on Pioneer, how does that necessarily help us bring in rather than say focusing on a pre-K program, how does this help us?
So Tanya, do you want to answer that? And if there are...
I'd be happy to respond to that, Kristen.
I was going to say, Kevin brought this up earlier too, about real quickly, Kevin, just by bringing that 6th grade up, it actually gives us space in the elementary schools to strengthen our pre-K program, which would not only increase the revenue in our preschool program, as well as bring a young age into our educational facilities here at Pioneer.
And then Kevin.
Yeah, and so that point is very valid. I think it's also important to
going to do that.
Hold on one second, Nathan, please, if you wouldn't mind. I just want to allow Kevin the opportunity to expand upon what he was speaking about.
I think it's important to look at the district as a whole when we're bringing students in. It's the elementary schools and the high schools that and having both those areas shine that keeps people in our district and attracts people to come to our district. That was one of the reasons why I added in the school choice, showing that when we're comparing apples to apples, we actually have people from surrounding communities coming into our district. We have a great reputation as a really good place to be, as an inclusive environment, as a good special education place to bring students. So we are attracting kids, and we need to have a strong middle school, a strong high school, and a strong elementary school, and overall be a strong district to attract families. As a parent, you don't want to have to bring a student and start a student into a school district where you're going to come to middle school or high school and have to send them somewhere else. You're going to want to put them in a district, form those social relationships with their fellow students, and move through to high school.
Thank you, Kevin. Nathan, did that answer your question?
In a way.
Okay. All right. So then I want to acknowledge Ariel. I saw your hand up. I won't forget about you, but we have some others in front of you. So Michelle, you are next. Mike, John, Ariel.
I appreciate all the work you've done, Kevin. I'd like to echo a little bit what Tanya said about the elementary schools. We really haven't heard from the principals in the elementary school or the teachers. And there's a lot of frustration with parents, both last year and this year in our elementary schools. A lot of people either are homeschooling or have taken the children out of the elementary schools because of crowding. There was a lot of parents upset when music had to be on the stage in Bernardston last year. And so I think we need to do a little more research, including the elementary schools, the elementary principals, and the teachers, and see what a move could do. I mean, we have a lot of room at the high school. That high school was built for many more bodies in that school. And so I think what we've done is we've overcrowded our elementary schools, and our high school is very spacious. And I think everyone tonight has made some very thoughtful comments, and the presentation was unbiased, and I appreciate that. But I think we have to make very important decisions within the next year. And I'm not trying to rush things, but we really have to look at the future of this school district. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. I want to give Megan or Kelly an opportunity to weigh in. As Michelle had pointed out, if you guys would like to speak. So Megan and Kelly.
Megan, why don't you go ahead? You had your hand up first.
I only just wanted to say, unless it's true for Bernardston, that to my knowledge, we do not have families that are homeschooling due to overcrowding. We do have a lot of families homeschooling this year due to COVID, due to their choice in participating in remote learning only, and then that not really working for their children. And I anticipate through the conversations throughout the fall that those families will be returning this fall. So there may be other homeschool families that I'm not aware of, but in terms of Northfield, I have not heard of any families homeschooling due to overcrowding. And our classrooms are certainly not overcrowded. We do have space issues, but it isn't a students in the classroom issue, other than this year's 6-foot distancing requirements for COVID.
Thank you, Megan.
I'd also like to comment, we've had a small handful of students at Bernardston families choose to homeschool, some of which was because it was hard to start a school year remotely, and some families disagreed with that decision. The other piece is that families had shared with me is that they really were concerned about possibilities of having COVID in the school, in the sense that it would then make choices pretty impromptu about additional support. So for example, if school had to all of a sudden go remote and they had younger siblings in the preschool or in the kindergarten, trying to find supportive options for them while they were also at work, it felt more complicating than what they could put on their plate at that time. And so they had to make decisions based upon their family's needs. So that would be new information for the small handful of families that actually went to engage in homeschooling, to actually say that they did it because of overcrowding. That would be brand new information for me to hear that. And then in the comments for having music on the stage, that definitely did happen. Again, looking at class sizes and splitting a class, that did take place due to students moving in. It's very challenging at the beginning of the year to always make those types of calls, because sometimes you can have a rather large group of students move in, and then within, 3 months of school, perhaps another grade, 2 or 3 students move out, and then there's a large discrepancy between class sizes and numbers, because you can't control people buying a house in another town or getting a job in New York. And those were most of the cases that took place. I did have several families that moved in that also have more than one child, which is good. So I didn't see that as a downfall. It did mean that music had to be on the stage, and this wouldn't be the first time that music has been on the stage. Lynette Snedeker, our music teacher, is fabulous. She's been in the district 18 to 20 years, and she is someone who can handle change, and she is fabulous at what she does, and she's shared between the 2 schools for band. And when I offered her the chance to be able to have a classroom again this year, she said, "I don't need it. I can go into all the classrooms and do music. Don't worry about me." So I thought that, again, just showing how much people are team players in Bernardston, and that was really supportive for the school, so that we could continue to have, like Megan said, an additional space or so to be able to have students pulled for additional reading supports. So as of right now, I'm not experiencing an overcrowding.
Thank you. I would just like to ask everybody, because I see a lot of the computer raised hands from the program. So just double check if your intention is to have your hand raised. Great. But I also want to make sure that if you don't, that it's removed. So John, you wanted to speak?
Yes. I really value everybody's opinion and their comments here and respect and can see both sides of this argument. From an educational standpoint, I think the data or the research can support either way, bringing 6th grade up to a middle school or leaving it in the elementary school. But when I look at, how we've restructured our district over the last several years, and how we're trying to increase enrollment, I believe we had 48 preschool students this summer wanting to get into Bernardston. I would echo what Mike Townsley said about, trying to build, I think it was Mike or maybe Nathan, building from the younger grades. I mean, we want, the families to move in with their students. We want to get those students in our schools. This could give us, physically more room in our schools to maybe add a preschool in each elementary school. It would strengthen, I believe, our middle school. I was really happy to hear Mike say that he would, feel comfortable and want to support this in the ideal situation by adding staff. Of course, Robin brings up good points too about what this would do to the budget. So, everybody's got valuable points. I really feel as a district, if we're looking at what's best for our district, I would support the 6th grade students coming up to Pioneer for all those reasons. I think in the long run, it will actually help our district, provide more programming for the students, more opportunities, for extracurricular activities and clubs and sports for those 6th grade students at Pioneer, while also strengthening our elementary school and maybe adding programs there, such as, school committee members have mentioned foreign language at the elementary schools and different offerings there, and what direction Ariel's looking to take, Pioneer in what she's doing and some of the grant work she has going. I really think this is an opportunity to keep moving our district forward. So that's all I wanted to say. I can respect everybody's opinion and sides, and I don't think anybody's wrong in this situation. But when I look at maybe what's best for our district and moving our district in this direction, I think this would be the right move. So that's all I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thanks, John. Ariel, you had your hand up.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Arielle LaRoe, for those who don't know me. I'm the curriculum coordinator for K through 12. And most of what I've been thinking and wanted to say is pretty much echoing what others have said. Sorry, all the cats and everything are sleeping on me because it's late, so I have to get rid of that. But I do have one other new thing to add. So to reiterate, space at the elementary, our pre-K, big numbers. A big piece is the middle school curriculum, 6 through 8, which was brought up by Kevin. And I think that we already have a really strong middle school model, and adding more students to that would enable it to flourish and would be a real attraction to parents looking to bring kids into our district. And then at the high school, I think if we have kids coming in at 6th grade as opposed to 7th, we build more of a sense of community. And that, combined with some of the things that I'm working on, which the superintendent just mentioned, we may lose less to the tech school. And so I also want to say that I appreciate that, as everyone has said, it's a tricky discussion because there are two sides to this story and you really could argue it either way. So from that point, I support it. And for those that are thinking about the Gil-Montague, they are 6 through 8. So what happens when we start to consider that and we've maintained that we want to stay 7 and 8? So I want to grow our entire enrollment, and I'm looking at our high school programs and our middle school programs and our elementary programs, but I also want to prepare for the long term and the big picture. And so that's a question that comes to my mind. And so that's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Arielle. Mike, Tanya, did you have your hand up with the little computer hand?
Sorry, I busted on accident.
So, Mike, I want to acknowledge Michelle, and I see David, and I see Jeannie as well. So, Mike, go ahead. And Nathan, I just saw your hand raised as well.
So I want to reflect back to the meeting that we had with Kevin and some of the staff last week. Karen O'Neill made a good point, and it stuck in my head that, the kids, one of the big concerns was, they missed their field trips, this past spring. Well, this spring, it's probably going to be the same thing. Kids are going to miss out. So with the 6th graders that are in 6th grade now going to 7th grade and the 5th graders going up with them, if this does happen, you'll have, there's no perfect scenario to try to give kids everything that they need that you want to give them when they're moving up. And you would be moving 2 grades that really are missing out, and something could be done next fall for those students to recognize their accomplishments to get to the middle school level. So that was one of the things that stuck with me in the meetings that we had. Also, funding has been brought up here. The funding is, to me, how do you cover that? Well, if people get the chart for what we're losing on average per year for kids leaving the district, and I'll just run down through it really quick. So in 2014, we had 500 kids. We lost from 2014 to 15, we lost 39 kids. To 15 to 16, we lost 33 kids. 16 to 17, we lost 19. 17 to 18, we lost 49. 18 to 19, we lost another 49. 19 to 20, we lost 13. Then 20 to 21, we lost 19. How do we cover the cost of this? We stop the bleeding. We stop the kids leaving the district because we're paying $19,200 per kid if they're going to another school. So keeping kids in our district will actually help offset what the cost of this program would be to move 6th grade, and you're improving the whole middle school which would be 6th, 7th, and 8th, by providing those programs. And it's filling that gap from the elementary school to 9th grade with those programs that aren't offered now. I'm looking at this as an educational benefit. And for the cost, there's going to be some offsets there. So the total is not going to be the 157, especially if you can stop the kids from, leaving by offering programs to help them improve the education. So I really want to thank Kevin and the 6th grade teachers and 7th and 8th, because I know that they had met with the admin team and the principals of those schools. I mean, this is a win-win situation. We've cut too much prior to some of us even coming onto the school committee. We watched it happen. We watched this deficit happen. We watched school lunch. Well, we can't sit here and let Pioneer Valley School disappear. And that's what's going to happen if we don't change our ways. We know we have a problem. We can't wait 1 or 2 years because it's going to be all over with. And we're either going to merge. If we do that, the potential for parents leaving the district to go to the school that they want their kids to go to is pretty high. So I'm all for the ideal program. I'm for providing a better education in our middle school, high school, and freeing up the room at the elementary level to provide more access to more kids coming in from outside the district, which brings revenue. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Michelle, did you have your hand up? No? Okay.
No, that was an accident.
Okay. And David, I saw your hand was up and now it's not up anymore. Did you have your hand up?
Yes, I just put it down so I'd remember to put it down after you
Okay.
recognize me.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
I've forgotten now what I was going to
Okay.
say.
I'm sorry. If it comes up, just let me know. Nathan?
Yeah, I'm still concerned about sacrificing.
I'm sorry, Nathan, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that there is some delay with your connection.
Elementary education for middle school and high school education. Mike is right, people are leaving the district. Yeah.
Nathan, can you hear me?
So I
there
don't know
is
if
some
you're hearing me
delay.
now.
Mike
is
there's
right.
a huge delay
Yes.
with your internet.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, can you just repeat what you said? Because we
Sorry
weren't
about
able
that.
to
I
hear
don't
you,
know
please.
how I can fix it. I can.
That's okay. I just wanted to make you
Yeah,
aware.
it's my concern is still. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. My concern is still that we are sacrificing the elementary schools for the sake of the middle school and the high school. Mike's right. Kids are leaving, right? They're leaving because there are viable, good options in the high school level. They're not options at the elementary school level. That's where we really need to be focusing. If we want to grow our district, you start growing your district pre-K, elementary school, and then on from there.
Thanks, Nathan. I want to go to Jeannie, then I acknowledge Alan and Julie.
Several times, and it was from several different people I heard, and I'll quote, the best for our district. That bothers me because we really should be concentrating on what's best for our students. And if the district benefits from that, what's best for our students, then that's good. But I don't think the focus should be on what's best for the district.
Thank you, Jeannie. Okay, hold on 1 second. I saw Megan just put her hand up. So Alan, Julie, and Megan.
You hear me?
Yes, I can.
That last comment is one of the things I was going to piggyback off of, and that the focus does need to be on what's in the best interest of students. And I think if Ariel does research or people do research that is more up to date, they're going to find that a K-6 model, kids do perform better, they socially adjust better. There's just a tremendous amount of benefit to that. You can, if you're thinking that you can fund things and do things because you're going to, bring in more revenue through homeschooling, through school choice, that's really not a good way to approach this. And that how you benefit a lot is if you have low enrollment, 15, 16 or something, or 17, 18, and you can take a couple of kids into a classroom that supports the teacher and the curriculum and so forth, that's when it really has, major benefits. If you're thinking that, well, we can do all these things because we're projecting that we think we're going to get all this additional revenue, that's really a slippery slope to be looking at for now. I'd like to see the elementary be able to build, and then I am not a supporter of a K-8, and someone who at the beginning of the meeting there was this comment made about beware because there are people on the committee that are in the 6-town region. That is just not, that's just such a inaccurate statement, and that people got on the committee, I think, because they want the best for students in the Pioneer District and in our forward towns. That's why I'm on the committee. I don't like the fact that Gil Montague has a 6 through 8. To me, that's a little problematic. But our research is so many years out in terms of what recommendations there are. I don't know if we'll ever merge. I don't know if this is the right decision, but we're going to explore it. And it's such infancy stages, and we haven't even determined, just to stay on that point for a minute, because it was brought up at the beginning of the meeting, we don't even know what may be a pro for one district, may be a con for another. So we've got to look at what are the pros and cons in Gil Montague, what are the pros and cons at Pioneer, what are the pros and cons if it's a 6-town regional. All those things are going to play into it. So anyone that has any nervousness or apprehension or paranoia, whatever it is, that we're on this committee to push you or us to do something is just not accurate. And I don't appreciate that. I want what's best for the kids. And I think that a K-6 program right now is the right thing. If you have parents that are not supportive of this at the moment, it says there needs to be more research and more conversations. The 7 through 12 model, I think focusing on how you can improve that without moving the 6th grade right now, I'd like to see what that model would like or what could be done simultaneously with exploring this option of moving the 6th grade up. Thank you.
Kristen,
Thank you.
can I make one small response to that?
Yeah, if you could just give me 1 second. I just want to kindly remind everyone, we are at 9:45. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time because we do have other agenda items, but I do want to be respectful and allow everyone to have an opportunity to speak and have this rich dialogue. So go ahead, Ariel.
I just want to say that we did look at the research last year when we held the parent forum, and much of the research comes from very large schools, as someone noted before, in Florida, where you have hundreds of thousands of students, and it's a whole different ballgame. That's not all of the research. I did look at the research. And also, I would like to say that when we do get to that place, when we're comparing the different schools, I really sincerely hope that the school committee spends time and goes to Turner's Falls High School and spends time at Pioneer, spends time looking at our middle school, and really looks at apples and oranges and sees what we have to offer and how it's different.
Thank you, Ariel. You make a very valid point. Julie, go ahead. And then Nathan, your hand is up. And David, I want to make sure you're intentionally holding your hand up. Okay, got it. Go ahead, Julie.
I just wanted to add, just to speak to Nathan's point, I'm not sure if his internet is not allowing him to hear everything that's being said. So it's several times points have been made that this will all can benefit the elementary schools, that it can open up space in the elementary school to allow for more programs to be brought to the elementary school, to allow more space for preschoolers. Someone had mentioned there was a wait list for Bernardston preschool. So there is a benefit from the very beginning here. Also, what we're looking at is we have more kids, if you're comparing apples to apples, which is public school to public school, choicing into Pioneer than we do out. Current state today. So this is only going to help our case if we have a more robust program where kids are able to choice into Pioneer even sooner. Also, I did read all of the studies that were presented, and I have my own here. I did recent research on evidence-based practice, and it is very limited. And a lot of what it refers to is making sure that, and they talk a lot about top dog status and whatnot, making sure that kids are supported because of the developmental stage that they're at. That can be done just as effectively in a sixth grade model combined with seventh and eighth, in my opinion, and according to these studies that I found. Also, for those of us who grew up in Franklin County, I went to Greenfield through the Greenfield school system. I was part of his 6th, 7th, 8th model. We know that Gil Montague is as well, and we all fared pretty darn well. So I think that your evidence is also right here, and amongst our families and our friends in our own communities. So I just wanted to make those points.
David, you had your hand up? And Jeannie, do you still have your hand up? Go ahead, David.
So this is now, and this is different from when those studies were done. And we're talking about change, and people had a lot of change, and we generally don't like change. There's been a lot of change. I think that kids may be more fragile right now, and this isn't the time. But it'd be okay by me to bring it back later. It wasn't okay as with the closing of Warwick School, but keeping kids, 10% of the district is leaving. Warwick's leaving the district, and it's because we the school district closed the school. It wasn't overcrowding was an aspect, but we closed the Warwick School. So today, at least 20 kids are homeschooled or virtual schooled or charter schooled. It's 25% of Warwick's kids. Our work on the transition agreement and tuition agreement is going along very positively. But I would be concerned. I am concerned as a school committee member on how that kind of change now will be greeted, and whether today's fifth graders who haven't had a normal year are going to be ready to be cast into that space. That's all.
Thank you, David. Jeannie, do you have your hand up? I don't see your photo. I don't see your screen on. Okay. Megan, you had your hand up. If you now to Nathan, and then I would like to go back to the motion that's the floor and begin the vote. Again, I'm not trying to end this discussion, but we do need to take a vote because we do have many other agenda items that require our attention this evening.
I think I can be quick. Julie just touched upon the one part of the thing that I was going to say was that in order to build the preschool program further at the elementary school or schools, we do need the space to do that. Right now, we couldn't add another classroom. So that would allow that opportunity if we had the interest. I'm not so clear in my mind through this presentation that adding the financial support for the sixth grade moving up would actually come from the elementary school. I don't think that's what I've heard. So I'm not making the assumption that if sixth grade moves up, the elementary loses money per se. So I hope that's not true, but that's not my impression. I will say that last spring, or actually, no, it wasn't the spring, it was winter, when we had our parent forum, I did hear informally from parents that their thinking did shift after that presentation from how they had responded on the survey, so that I felt from, again, informal conversations, that more parents were interested in having their sixth graders be in the middle school. Additionally, I have heard informally through by some parents recently, given COVID, that who are fifth graders now, they do not want to see their kids have to move under these circumstances. So I did want to say that. I think Michelle had asked a little bit about principals' perspective and what they were hearing. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Thank you, Megan. Nathan?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of reiterate again. So if we're going to have this move, how does it benefit the elementary schools, right? So if we're going to have increased funding, where's that funding coming from? Like if we're going to have pre-K, right? Where is that coming from? That is our building block, right? It's not sixth grade, it's pre-K and first grade. That's how we build kids into our district. The other thing I'd like to say, and just briefly, I heard a lot of concerns at the parent meeting last year about fifth graders on the buses with older kids, right? I'm sorry, sixth graders. So having that change, has that been addressed? Will there be a non-bus driver adult on the bus with the kids?
Thank you, Nathan.
I think all our students are on the bus going home anyway, right now, and have been all ages.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Mike, but it's different for that long of a period, right?
Okay. Dr. Carrier and Tanya, and then that will be our, we will conclude the comment, and we do need to take the vote.
I just wanted to comment about adding additional preschool spaces and the benefit of that, or additional supports. We currently have 3 classrooms at Bernardston Elementary School with small bathrooms inside of the classrooms to support the pre-K and Ks, because we have 2 kindergarten classrooms right now. We did have a very large wait list at the beginning of the year with close to 50 students as a combined pre-K and K students coming in to Bernardston Elementary School. If we did look at adding another classroom, I would ask everybody if they wanted to provide that same level of support with bathrooms in the classrooms for those little students, because they require that type of close proximity, and that another bathroom would have to be made in Bernardston Elementary School to be able to support that. I'd also like to comment that we currently do have kindergartners who ride the school bus with 6th graders. And I would see that that is a very similar age gap to 6th graders riding the bus with 12th graders. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya?
I just wanted to chime in real quickly because Nate seems to be drilling in on the financial piece of it. And to echo what Megan said, the idea is not to take away funding from the elementary school, but rather build it into our operating budget and make that part of our budgeting process as we go through that. And also our pre-K program is partially self-funded. So it is funded from grants, and it's funded from its own revolving fund from the preschool tuition. And some of the teacher salary does come from the general fund, but if there was enough interest in it, it could become more self-funded than it actually is right now.
Thanks, Tanya. And could you please, just for everyone, restate the motion that Mike had made, as you have it noted, please? Is Ann still here?
All right. It was at 9 o'clock, 9:01. he moved that the sixth grade, he made a motion and Karen O'Neill seconded it, to, have the sixth grade move up, but he qualified that he wanted to open it up for discussion.
Okay. So the motion was seconded, so we will take the vote. So I'll just go down the list as we've been doing all night.
Sorry, Kristen, can you just restate the motion that we're voting only on moving up, or are we voting on a timeline?
So go ahead, Mike.
I can tell you what the motion was, Kristen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kristen. I said my motion would be to move sixth grade up for the fall of 2021. And the reason I wanted the motion to be made is so if it got seconded, then the discussion could happen, because usually we have discussion before a motion's made, then we have to do the discussion all over again. So I eliminated that part. Okay. So the motion was to move sixth grade up for the fall of 2021.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go down the list. Karen?
Karen, yes.
Mike?
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Raina?
Raina Dastu, no.
David?
David Young, no.
Jim?
Yes.
Nathan?
Nathan Schwartz, no.
Jeannie?
Jeannie, no.
Julie?
Julie Burke, yes.
And if you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind just muting, because I'm hearing a lot of feedback in my own voice. Alan?
No.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
And Kristen Gonzalez, yes. So, Anne, correct me if I'm wrong. I have 7 yes, 5 no.
Yeah, I have the same.
Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate everyone's patience and discussion and questions and answers. And I feel like this was a very respectful and positive discussion. So thank you, everyone. Moving on to our next agenda item, request to create a link on the PVRSD website that links to STRPB, which is the Six-Town Regionalization Planning Board website. John, could you speak to this, please?
Oh, sure. I'm in favor of this. I just wanted to bring it before the committee. I received an email from Greg Steneker, who's a select board member in Gill and part of the Six-Town Regionalization Planning Board, who has created a website to centralize their public access and communication with their information. He asked me if we would consider creating a link on our website that links to that page for public postings of meetings. So I have no, I'm in favor of this. I just wanted to bring it in front of the committee because, it is something being asked to put on our website. So hopefully that goes quick and there are no objections. But.
Yeah, and we did review this with Russell as well, and this is a requirement of a vote of the school committee. We have to vote on this because it would it involves our district website. So I just wanted to put that out there. So if there is a motion, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
So moved.
I'll second that. Oh.
I made the motion, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
And I seconded it, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Any discussion? None? Okay, we'll go down the list. So Karen?
Yes.
I believe Alan had his hand raised.
Alan, did you have your hand up?
I did have it up, but John did a good job in covering the purpose of just making sure that there is a mechanism for everybody to be able to get our minutes, get our agendas, watch any meetings that we had. So it's transparent, and that's the point of this. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Mike Townsley, yes.
Raina,
Raina Dester, yes.
David,
David Young, yes.
You say Jim?
yes, I did.
Yes.
Nathan,
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Julie,
This feels promotional to me, so I'm going to say no.
Alan,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Robin,
Abstain.
and I myself am going to abstain as well. The motion does pass. I have 9 votes for yes, 1 no, and 2 abstains. Is that what you have, Ann?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to subcommittee assignments. So I do have to say, in full transparency, this was quite challenging because every single member of this school committee requested the same subcommittees. So some individuals provided me with 2 requests, a first, a second. Others provided a third, and some even provided a first, second, third, and fourth. So I did try my best to make sure that the subcommittees were done equitably and with individuals' interests in mind, as well as everyone's experience and knowledge and what we bring to the table. So this does have to be voted on by the entire committee. So I'd just like to recite the groupings, please. And then if all agree, we can entertain a motion and then there can be discussion. So as far as budget subcommittee is concerned, we have Mike, Michelle, Jim, and David. Curriculum and personnel, Karen, Julie, Raina, Nathan. Building and grounds, Robin, Nathan, Mike, Julie. Policy, Karen, Raina, Robin, Jim. Negotiations, Jeannie, Alan, Michelle, David.
I can't write that fast.
Do you want me to email it to you, Ann?
Sure.
Okay. And district agreement, Alan, Michelle, Jeannie. So if there is a motion, we do have to vote and accept, or
I'll
if it
move.
doesn't.
I'm making. Go
I was
ahead.
making
Go ahead,
my-
Michelle.
I'll make a motion to accept the subcommittees as stated by Kristen, because I didn't write them all down either.
I will send a master list if this passes to everyone, and including Ann.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Go ahead, Deanie.
I would very much like to remain on the policy committee as I had been working closely with Abby.
All right. So is there anyone on the policy that would swap? Robin, go ahead.
Jeannie, what else are you on?
I was on the district agreement, which should be just about almost done, shouldn't it?
Since neither of them are a forte for me, I'll do district agreement. That's fine if you want to stay on policy.
Thank you so much, Robin.
No problem.
Nice to connect with you again.
Yeah. Long time.
So I am going to move, if everyone is in agreement, Jeannie to policy, Robin to district agreement. Okay? All right, so there's a motion, a second. I see Nathan's hand up. I see Alan's hand up, and David.
So I just have a quick question. Is there going to be a subcommittee on the Warwick transition?
So That I have no knowledge of because I've not been a part of that. And John, maybe you can fill the committee in on that.
Sure.
What is going on with
We
Warwick?
do have a few members that have been, that are on that transition committee. It's Karen and Jeannie and am I forgetting anybody? Karen and Jeannie? Was it Pat that was on there? Or Jeannie, maybe you were.
Chairman.
Michelle.
That's chairman.
Sorry, Michelle. Yeah.
So it was Karen, Jeannie,
I'm
and
on it.
Michelle?
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, not Jeannie.
No.
Not Tiffany.
Michelle, Karen, Pat was on there as well.
Okay, so we would need we would need 2 more people on the Warwick transition.
I would like to be part of
Yeah,
that.
just one. Yeah.
Nathan, you're interested? Nathan? Thumbs up, maybe? Okay. Alan, we'll give Nathan an opportunity to get his technology
I'm
situated.
sorry.
Alan?
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
I
you're
am.
interested?
I don't know if you're hearing me.
Okay, thank you on Warwick. I got you. Alan?
Yeah, Kristen, I had expressed a strong interest in policy. I have a lot of expertise in that. And I do think that the district agreement is probably toward its final stages. So I don't mind serving on 3 until that one's done. I would be on 2.
So the problem is that, as I explained before, we have to have 4 people on each subcommittee so that if one person doesn't show up, we have to have 3 as a quorum. And everyone wanted to be on policy and curriculum and personnel. Those were our 2 main. Everyone expressed and they labeled them as their first priority. So I did the best that I could. If there's someone that was willing to switch with you, go ahead, David. I see your hand up as well.
Yeah. I do the collaborative and the budget, and I want those to be my 2 because it really is not workable in my mind for me to be on negotiations. For one, I once had the indelicacy to say to the teachers during negotiations that math was hard, and they threatened I don't know, some kind of formal action. So I resigned from the committee. But in my capacity as town coordinator, I've chosen to protect myself from the only conflict of interest that really concerns me, or the appearance of it, being that I trade on information that's not public. And being on negotiations, I think, requires participation in executive sessions. So negotiations, and I apologize, I didn't give you any indication. For me, I figured you'd see fit where to put me, but this one doesn't work for me.
Okay, all right, I'll remove you from that. Thank you for that information. I appreciate it. So
And if you could put me down for collaborative, I'll do that.
Sure. I have you noticed as our representative for the collaborative program because you had mentioned the importance and that you had been continuing to participate at our last meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Nathan?
I just wanted to make sure that I know there was some a technical glitch that I am interested in being on the Warwick Transition Committee.
Yes, I do have you noted there, Nathan. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much. So I need someone on the negotiation subcommittee. And for those new members, typically the chair is not assigned a subcommittee due to the amount of work that is required with the position of chair. So if anyone's wondering why I'm not listed under a subcommittee, that is why I can't. Julie?
I just wanted to say I'll be on whatever committee you need me to be on. So, if someone wants to switch building and grounds, I don't, it doesn't matter to me. I'll go for the good of the group.
Thank you so much, Julie. Alan, you had your hand up? You're on mute.
Thank you. See that little button. I guess the subcommittees are set up by matter of policy. I'm not sure, but I I don't really know, and I'm just going to give my opinion here. I don't really think you need a buildings and grounds subcommittee. I think the superintendent and the people that, you know, he works with, the directors and so forth, I think that's more of an administrative function, and that he could handle that and report, you know, to the committee. So, I mean, I'd like to hear his thoughts on that, but I don't think in today's day and age that a building and grounds is necessary. I think that's more his purview, but.
So I just want to be clear that these subcommittees are noted within our regional agreement and within MASC. And we did review this with Tracy Novick, and we met with her last during our policy subcommittee about the building and grounds. And she said that building and grounds was a committee of the school committee, and that she had not heard of school committees not having a building and grounds. So that recommendation was made on behalf of her as well. So John, do you want to speak to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Alan. I think David had brought that point up. A lot of school districts around us don't have a building and grounds subcommittee. I did ask now Tracy Novak from MASC during that conversation, and she said, well, it's, you know, part of your I guess your regional agreement, and, you know, if it's working well, you can keep it. But that was something I had brought up too, to see if that could be something that maybe wasn't, you know, a subcommittee that wasn't needed. So I would leave that to this committee to decide. But I feel that building grounds is more of an administrative and day-to-day operations situation that I could certainly, you know, that I do now anyway. But I leave that to this committee and whatever it feels comfortable doing. If you want to keep the committee, that's fine. If you didn't want to keep it, that's fine also.
Mike, I see your hand up, and Raina. And Tanya, do you have your hand up?
No, when I keep going down to the bottom thing, it clicks on it. I apologize.
Okay, thanks so much. Mike, and then Raina, and David, and Nathan.
I'd like to just focus on getting these committees sorted out tonight. If we need to make changes down the road to something that we decide to change as far as what committees we need or don't need, let's do that at a later date. Let's get this meeting moving.
Thank you.
Yeah, at 3+ hours, Jim is leaving. Everybody have a great holiday.
Thank you, Jim. Same to you. Raina?
Sorry. I just wanted to echo what Julie said. I'm willing to serve in whatever capacity is needed. And I was just going to ask Alan which committee, because I couldn't follow all of the names, ask Alan which committees he's on, because I'd be willing to give up my spot on the policy committee.
Alan is currently on negotiations and the district agreement.
No, not negotiations. You didn't say negotiations. You said district agreement.
I said negotiations and district agreement.
Wow.
All right. Well, I could take the negotiations and allow Alan the spot on the policy.
Thank
committee.
you.
Thank you.
So I need one more individual on negotiations.
If you want to change one of mine, I'll take negotiations. I'm fine. If someone has a conflict with negotiations, I can take that.
Okay.
I have curriculum, personnel, and building and grounds. I'd honestly rather give up the building and grounds. That's not my expertise.
Okay. So then we would need someone to replace Julie on building and grounds if I move her to negotiations. We need to have 4 individuals on each committee, please.
Does our
Nathan,
bylaws say that?
in order to meet the quorum,
If I'm not on buildings and grounds, then yes.
you are already on it.
Okay.
Kristen, may I?
Yes, go right ahead, David.
Like I said, math is hard. It would actually, it wouldn't hurt to have 5 if we actually had the interest. For instance, I think we're leaving money on the table, not appointing Alan to policy when he's volunteered. I've been on that. That's a nasty committee. You wouldn't get me to serve on policy committee. But with 5 members on a subcommittee, the quorum remains 3, and you actually increase your chance of reaching a quorum. So
Raina
I would
and
really
Alan.
just consider not populating building and grounds, because its real only function is to interface with the towns, but it's still the administration's job. We could get rid of, not put anybody there, and if there's enough interest in a committee to go for 5 on a subcommittee, I would allow it, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be clear that Raina and Alan switched. So Raina, if you would like to be on policy, I could add you as the 5th member as long as everyone's in agreement.
Sure, I'd be willing to do that.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Alan?
Yeah, I was just gonna, the school committee can make any at your pleasure. You can create any committees that you want to, but to have it locked into the regional agreement, it seems like this is the perfect time to just remove that. If that's the barrier, remove it from the regional agreement right now, and then you have the flexibility. If for whatever reason there's something going on, if you want to form a building and grounds committee, it has that prerogative.
So it is in our regional agreement now. Therefore, as the regional agreement or the district agreement is worked on, it can be removed at that point. We can't remove it right now. So the committee can be formed and then it can be dissipated. But I also, as a former member of the Building and Grounds Committee, I say this, I see an extreme and tremendous value in this committee and the work that it's done. There is so much that goes into it, and I understand John has said that it's more administrative, but it is not also administrative. We have walked through the buildings with the select boards. We have addressed a variety of different things. So from my perspective, having sat on the Building and Grounds, we entertain presentations of possible solar panels. I see a huge need for it. Karen?
Yes, I'm just getting frustrated with the time. I'm sorry.
And I understand that. So I'm going to reread the committees. There was a motion, we'll vote. So budget, we have Mike, Michelle, Jim, David, C&P, Karen, Julie, Raina, Nathan. Building and Grounds, I'm happy to add myself to one to make it the 4th. And if I'm not able to attend, there's still a quorum with the 3. Robin, Nathan, Mike, and myself. Policy, Karen, Alan, Jeannie, Jim, and Raina, because we'll have a committee of 5. Negotiations, Jeannie, Raina, Michelle, Julie. District Agreement, Alan, Mike, Michelle, Robin. And Warwick, Karen, Michelle, Nathan. And I just want to make sure that, because there are only 3 members on the Warwick Committee, that if someone is absent from one of those meetings, there will not be a quorum. So there can be no votes that are taken with that.
Can I move that
Okay.
new slate then? Will that make sense to move that new slate now and have it seconded?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. I don't think we need any more discussion. So,
Yeah.
Karen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Raina,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jim.
Jim left.
Oh, Jim left. So, Nathan,
Yes.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
and Kristen, yes. All right, I will email everybody, and including Ann, so everyone has committee assignment. Moving along, we have the substitute rate increase. Tanya, could you speak to this, please?
Yes, so very quickly, I'm gonna just present my screen one more time. You guys were provided this document to show you what the suggestions are on the substitute rate increases. The reason for this, as you all know, we are not required to be in compliance with the minimum wage. However, not meeting minimum wage is our lowest wage for any of our positions in the districts, makes it very difficult in any normal year to obtain staff, and especially in the current situation. So you'll see on the left-hand side our current rates for teacher, cafeteria helper, and nurse. Note that we increased the teacher rate last year to be in compliance with the minimum wage. The cafeteria helper has not been changed since 2017. And the reason for the change, in the nurse rate is that it's inconsistent with what we pay our nurses substitutes over the summer. So the proposal to increase the teacher's rate to 95 increases it slightly above the minimum wage. The cafeteria helper, we're proposing to increase it to $12.50 from January till June, which is through the end of this fiscal year, to keep us in line with our current PVASD contract, so that our substitutes are not making any more than our lowest stepped cafeteria employee, and then changing it to $13.50 at the beginning of FY22, and changing the nurse rate substitute rate to $30 an hour to be compliant with what we pay the substitutes over the summer. Does anybody have any questions regarding these changes? And again, our teacher rate has not been anywhere near what our surrounding districts are, and it's posed a huge problem for us in the past, and it's posing a huger problem for us right now with COVID.
I see Alan has his hand up, and Nathan had a question as well.
Yeah, Tanya, I was just wanted to know what are the rates around us? Because you know, I support this. I'd rather see it go to 90, but if that doesn't put us over a minimum, then I guess the 95. But
yeah, so 90 doesn't put us over minimum. I know I just heard an ad on the radio for 91 for Hinsdale, which is just across the border in New Hampshire. And there are surrounding districts that do pay between 90, some even pay up to $100 a day. So it just depends on the area, the size of the district, and so forth. We do have one of the lower salary scales in our surrounding areas as well. So that, you know, just makes it really hard for us to get staff.
okay, Kristen, can I make a motion to move this as presented?
Well, Nathan had his hand up, so I want to make sure he has the opportunity to ask his question.
Thanks, Tristan. Yeah, just a quick question. How does this affect benefits, especially retirement benefits?
It has nothing to do with benefits. These are just substitute rates. So these people are not individuals that qualify for any benefits in our district unless they were to become a long-term sub, which is a whole different set of salary requirements. Our long-term subs are paid at step one on the salary rate, which they fall under based on their qualifications, certification. So these are just daily substitutes. These are not benefited employees.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Who was that?
Alan?
I'll second it.
Thank you,
Michelle.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go down the line. Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
Mike Townsley abstain.
Raina?
Rita Dasty, yes.
David?
David Young, yes.
Jim left. Nathan?
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Jeannie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Mike, Michelle?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
And Kristen, yes. So the motion passes. We can raise the rates. I'll briefly touch upon topic number 6 or agenda item number 6, school committee goals. So one of the things that we are tasked with as a school committee, we obviously know what our responsibilities are as school committee members, but we also have the responsibility to create, and it's recommended, 3 goals to guide our functioning, to enhance cohesion. So this is obviously a larger discussion, but I wanted to plant the seed so that folks could start thinking about that and what we would like to see happen as a school committee, and then we can revisit this in the future because it is very late. But you can also look this up in the district agreement, and everyone should have an MASC account. And if you do not already, please get yourself registered, and you can find additional information around why school committee should set goals and what they should revolve around. Robin, do you have a question? I see your computer hand is up.
Actually, I was going to make a motion that we skip over 6 and 7 to another meeting because we're losing people of the hour.
Okay. 7, we do have to discuss, and John needs to talk about it. So if you can just briefly talk about it, John.
Sure. I'll let Carla, she's going to just present this really quick. We could probably do it in just 2 or 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but basically we're just trying to look at changing our protocol for potential school closure that was developed as part of our reopening plan in the summer. The governor's office has updated his health metrics and his protocols. A lot of school districts are in the process of updating their protocols now. And so, Carla, if you want to just briefly, in a few minutes, discuss this, that would be great. We can't vote on this tonight, but certainly want to kind of update the committee really quickly.
Sure, I can do that. So basically, and I think everyone's already received the, I'm just trying to present my screen here. Everyone's received, oh no, it's not letting me do that. Okay, sorry about that. I can't get my screen to present right now. Hold on.
Do you want me to present mine, Carla? Because I have the presentation up.
Hold on one sec. I just want to do one page, basically, is what I'm trying to do. Oh gosh, of course that has to happen right now. Sorry, I'm just going to mute myself for 1 second while my dog barks.
Well, Carlos,
sorry about that. I have a 6-pound dog that barks at a 100-pound dog. Okay, so basically what's happening here is, and I can share the slide presentation if everyone didn't get a copy of that. I think everyone has received a copy of it. And if you haven't, you can let me know. I've also shared the, and I think John shared an email to everybody, the updated protocol that we're trying to get to pass. So essentially what's happening is the protocol that we wrote over the summer is based on the data that was available at the time. And since then we have a lot more data available. So essentially what I want to do is add a lot more of those data points that are available now into this new closure protocol. So it was written over the summer, this original plan. The data state wasn't giving a ton of data at the time. As everything started to unfold, and now here we are, quite a few months into this, and we have a lot more data available. So with that extra data available, we're able to get a clearer picture of what's happening in our community. Basically, when we first started the plan, we had 2 data points that we were basing switching learning models on, and that was the positivity rate and the average daily incidence rate. And those are still fine indicators, but there's a lot more that we can go on now that'll give us a much clearer picture of what's happening around us. So essentially the proposal is to add, looking at county numbers, looking at numbers in our towns, looking at numbers in neighboring communities. So essentially just trying to add, for example, right now the positivity rate in Massachusetts is 5%. In Franklin County, it's 3.4%. So it's a pretty big difference in, within the state. So I did this presentation for the staff, for both unions. Some did vote to accept the new proposal, but more did not accept it. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work this out together. We certainly have common ground in that we all want safety for our students and for ourselves in the buildings. So I'm hopeful that moving forward, we'll be able to get some of these new data points into the plan. If anyone wants a copy of that, just, you can email me, know. If not, but that's kind of the summary of where we are right now.
Thank you, Carla. Are there any questions for Carla regarding this? Alan, I see your hand up, and David, your hand up. Alan?
Yes. So John has sent out, what the results were when the staff was polled or what their vote was. How does I heard you say, Kristen, we have to vote on this, but is this going to match or create a conflict with what we'll be doing with the MOUs with the staff and what these protocols are?
We will have to vote after the PVREA and the excuse me if I
ASP.
PVASP, they vote on it,
Right.
and then we will have to vote on it.
Right.
So essentially, what this comes down to is the MOA that was negotiated over the summer at the beginning of school references the school closure protocol. So we can't go ahead and change that school closure protocol because it's part of the MOA. So we need to have the unions agree to it, and then we have to present that to the school committee, as I understand, to also vote on it.
So there's no vote tonight.
No vote
There's
tonight.
no vote.
There is no vote tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Good. I thought I
other
heard you say in the
questions?
beginning.
No, we will have to
So
vote
everyone
on
can
it.
see,
at some
I think you
point.
can see that screen now. So that's just an idea of what kind of, essentially the way the plan is right now, we're looking at that in that primary stage there. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah, we can see it, Carla. Thank you.
So the primary ones are all that's in there right now. That reflects statewide data. I want to add some other ones that includes, internal data as far as what's happening in our schools and specifically within our towns, and then more county information. So again, I can send that along if anyone doesn't have it.
Thanks, Carla. Mike, I see your hand up.
Yes, I guess from what I've heard, the biggest concern between, I think, staff and parents is when there's a decision or lack of decision being made, if there's a case or exposure. We got to get away from having last minute decisions on Friday afternoons for Mondays, because the parents find it unacceptable. And the other thing we got to do, if we're going to decide to close, if there's exposure during the week, let's not have the rat race of trying to get stuff out and then trying to get people back within the same week. We need to focus on having clear expectations if something does happen. And I think we've kind of been lacking there, and parents have found it frustrating because they have to find somebody to watch their kids. And when you tell them on a Friday afternoon for something on a Monday, I hear a lot of flack, because of it. Or trying to make a decision to open on a Wednesday and then you end up closing. Well, that really puts the burden on the parents. Never mind what it does to the staff and the commotion that they got to go through to try to transition. So I think this whole thing, we've got to look at the bigger picture too, and just be clear and not try to rush the decision. If you got to close. If you're going to stay open, let's let the parents know and let the staff know as soon as possible. But wait until 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon is really not. It's not good for the school committee members to have to listen to parents complain. It's not good.
So
I
can I
get
respond?
that, Mike. I really do get that. Oh, sorry, John.
No, go ahead, Carla. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, I really understand that frustration, and I will, you may be happy to know this plan will actually change that, because the reason that we're having to wait until Fridays is because the plan that has these data points, the report that comes out at 6 o'clock on a Thursday night. So when this plan was first written, it was coming out on Tuesday nights, and then it changed to Wednesday nights, and now it's on Thursday nights. And that's one of the 2 data points that we look at are in that weekly public health report. So it's released at 6 o'clock on a Thursday night. There's, so that's exactly what that timing is about. That's why we have to wait until Friday to make that actual call. And then as far as the actual cases that we've had this far, each one is so unique, and I'd love to be able to make a split-second decision, but the way the contact tracing works, it takes quite a while to do that, and there are situations where it doesn't make sense to shut everything down lickety-split if it's not warranted. So I understand the frustrations. I know there's frustrations with all of this. I can guarantee there's a lot of work going into the decisions, and I wish it could work out a different way, but there's a lot going into the decisions, I'll say that.
Thank you, Carla. I saw Julie Burke's hand up. Julie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had more of a comment. I think that from what I can gather, the original agreement or the original plan was made over the summer to try to get ready for the school year before the recommendation had been stated from the state. So it seems perfectly reasonable to then have to amend those metrics now that we are, 9-10 months into this thing. And also, I think that it's very important to remember that the number in the state is vastly different from out here in cow country. I mean, the Franklin County number is below the 5%. Every piece of data states that kids fare better with face-to-face learning. Every piece of data states that this is not transmitted within the schools. It is transmitted outside the schools, in the homes. So really, you could argue that by having kids in the homes, you're contributing more to the spread of COVID than you are to having the kids in school. Also, our Franklin County data, as Carla stated, by the report that came out after 4 p.m. today, is in the 3% range. So I do think that the local numbers, and then Franklin County, actually, the schools that compromise our district are even lower than that, than the Franklin County numbers, because that includes Greenfield and larger communities. So we're even lower than 3% if you combine the schools that compromise our district. So I do think that you do need to get more granular with this data, that we can't base our decisions based on the number on the state level. So I just wanted to add that comment.
Thanks, Julie. Michelle, did you have your hand up?
Yes. My comment was going to be, can we have a clause in there if the data changes again that we will follow? We have the right to change without going back and negotiating it. I mean, things could keep changing in January. It's just so frustrating. I totally agree with Mike. I've been getting a lot of complaints from people. And if we could just tell them that, what was going on, that the data changed from Tuesday to Thursday, that would help so much with communication and parents, because they really don't know what's going on with this. And I was just thinking, how can we have a clause in here that if the data changes again, we don't have to negotiate? I don't know. It's just a comment.
Well, and I think that's a great point, is that it could, and it's hard. This plan was written, in anticipation. It's hard to tell where we'd be at this point. It's kind of a theory and practice kind of thing. I think we definitely could have something in there that, we can change the plan with CDC guidelines as they changed. I mean, look at how many times CDC guidelines have changed along the way. The state metrics have changed along the way. Lots of things have changed along the way. So yes, we could certainly look at something like that.
All right. Are there any other questions? Mike, I see your hand up. Is that, did you have something to say, or that was just left there? Okay. Nathan, I see you have your hand up.
I do, and I agree that we need a very clear and transparent protocol as to when and why we're closing. And of course, that's going to change. The metrics of this change constantly, but we need to be able to communicate that to the parents, to the teachers, everybody. So I'm not a public health expert, but we need to be able to communicate that we need to have a standard that we can communicate to the stakeholders, to our the parents and the kids and the teachers.
And we do have a pretty, well, it's hard because each situation is so unique, but there's a lot of constraints that go along with privacy issues. So we're really limited to the exact details that we can share. I do understand what you're saying. We've tried to absolutely been as transparent in our communication as possible. But we are restricted with some of this information that we can share. So we've tried to share as much as we can with the entire district, in each situation as it's permitted.
Thank you, Carla. Are there any other questions? Michelle, your hand is up. Is that intentionally or?
Sorry,
That's
no.
okay. All right. I don't see any other hands up. So thank you, Carla, for the information. And if there are no other questions, we'll move along. Other business not anticipated at the time of the posting. Another thing that I just wanted to briefly talk about, especially given the time, we did, the former committee did make a decision that we wanted to meet more frequently in order to reduce the time of our meetings. So we were meeting every other week. So more to come. This will be up for a vote at our next school committee meeting in January. So putting that out there because these meetings are long and we have a lot of work to do, and meeting more frequently might reduce the length of our meeting time. So there is no old business at this time. And next on our agenda is executive session. We will need to take a roll call vote as soon as there is a motion and a second.
I would make a motion. I move.
Second.
I have to state it, right?
Yes, you have to read the motion
Okay.
out loud,
All right.
please.
Okay. I would like to move.
And before you make the motion, Karen, and you read it,
Yes.
we would involve Tanya bringing her in, having a discussion with her, and Anne, and then asking Tanya to be in sort of a breakout room, and John as well. And then we could discuss amongst ourselves as school committee members, bring Tanya back in, go into open session, and do a vote if that's where this ends up.
Does all that have to be in the motion?
Yes, because we have to state who's going to be in executive session with us.
Okay. I would like to move, we go into executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A, paragraph 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Director of Finance, and return to open session. We will invite Tanya Gaylord, our Director of Finance, to be part of this meeting, and our Superintendent, Jonathan Schedule, to be part of this meeting. They will leave at one point, and we will further discuss, and then we will return to open session. Is that correct?
Yes, and Anne as well as our secretary.
Anne Harding will be included as our secretary.
Yeah, I have to decline. It's almost 11 and I have to be working at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I can't take the notes back.
Okay. All right. I will take the notes then and email them to you, Anne.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Is there a second?
A second. Nathan Swartz,
Was
second.
that you, Nathan?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so we need to do a roll call vote. So what that means is you have to state your full name, your town, and yes or no, or abstain. Okay. Karen?
Karen O'Neill Leiden, yes.
Mike?
Mike Downsley, Bernardston, yes.
Raina?
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
David?
I think he
Is
left.
David still here? Okay, thank you. Jim is gone. Nathan?
Nathan Swartz. Yes.
Thank you. Jeannie?
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Julie?
Julie Burke, Northfield, yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Jeruso, Leiden, yes.
Robin?
Robin Knight, Leiden, yes.
Kristen Gonzalez, Northfield, yes. So anyone who has not been mentioned, please remove yourself from this meeting, and then when we return to open session, you can join us.
So can I get the rest of the open session meetings from the movie?
Okay.
you said
Thanks,
you-
Ann.
Okay, sorry, I can't
Thank
stay.
you. No problem. Tyler from BNC TV, can you just give me the okay when we are good to discuss in executive session, please, with the recording? So, just a quick plug. If anyone's ever going to be late or absent from a meeting, if you could please email myself or let John know so we know and can know how to schedule the meeting, and we can fill you in on the things that are missed.
Yeah.
I think we're all set, Kristen. I think Tyler's back in.
Okay, it says volume is up now, and we are back in open session.
Does Tanya know that? Oh, yeah, she's there.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, John, let me know you guys are all set, so I came back.
Thank you so much. So we are back in open session. I will entertain a motion to vote on the changes made to the Director of Finance contract as recommended
So
and as
moved.
presented.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Karen,
Karen O'Neill Leiden, yes.
Mike,
Mike Townley, Bernardston, yes.
Raina,
Raina Bernardston-Northfield, yes.
Nathan, Nan, okay, I'm gonna move to Jeannie,
Jean Milton Bernardston, yes.
Julie,
Julie Northfield, yes.
Alan,
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle,
Michelle Jeruso Leiden, yes.
Kristen Gonzalez Northfield, yes. Nathan,
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
thank you so much. All right, that is all set. Personnel, we have nothing to report on that, correct, John?
Yeah, nothing to
Russell?
report.
No miscellaneous updates. Good and welfare, Karen?
Okay, I would just like to ask anybody who creates a document for this meeting that you add 3 things to it. You give it a title. Several this time did not have titles. You put on page numbers, and please add a version number if it's modified from a previous version. It would really make things easier if we had these 3 things. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It was a very productive meeting. I appreciate everyone's patience and contributions. I feel like it was very enriching. We got a lot done. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is Thursday, January 14th, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Google Meet. I'll entertain a motion for adjourn.
So moved, Karen.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone.